Yo, it's your boy Ryan, Northwest Sports Fanatics, back at you with a new video. Today is Friday, March 15th, 2024, with your boy Ryan and the Northwest Sports Fanatics. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. Smash that like button either now or on your way out. Donate to your boy if you can. Cash App $ ORION NWSF or the YouTube super chat right here. We got NFL free agency signings, a breakdown, and some reactions. And on top of that, we have the retirement of Aaron Donald this morning. So we'll go over a little bit of a tribute to him. And there's even more signings and cuts that are happening at this very second. So we want to make sure we go over that. I hope everyone is having a fantastic Friday. And shout out to all the people watching on Twitter/X, as well as the people that are in the room. Thumbnail turned out pretty good, obviously, with the free agent signings. And I wanted to throw, obviously, Aaron Donald in the mix since he ended up retiring today. So we'll start off with Aaron Donald and all of his accomplishments that he has obviously, incurred in his amazing career. And then once we go over a little tribute to AD, Aaron Donald, with his retirement, then we'll go into Keenan Allen. And then obviously I saw the Tyron Smith just dropped, obviously going from the Cowboys to the Jets. And we'll go over Russell Wilson and many other players that ended up signing on the dotted line, or if they ended up joining a new team. So let me get some music just set up here in the background. All right, baby. Let's go. And shout out to my boy Odin Sun with a $25 dono before the stream even started to get us off to a good start. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. $25 dono, stacks on stacks, racks on racks. A little Cactus Jack, bang, bang, $25 dono from Odin Sun. So I'm not sure if he'll be popping in right away. I know he's watching wrestling and he's sending me a few links here and there. But thank you so much for your love and your support. We'll throw up some cheap photos and some wrestling photos for him if he ends up coming through. And if not, I'll still throw those up before we end up getting started. Shout out to you. Daniel in the building, what's good? Sarah in the building, what's good? And ironically, just right when we end up getting the stream started, I wanted to wait just a little bit just to see if anything else was going to drop right around that 6 o'clock mark. And we ended up getting the Tyron Smith. So I was kind of thinking that there was going to be one or two either signings, cuts, or surprises within this hour. And we finally got one here late Friday night. So definitely excited about that. Odin Sun, much love. And $25, 75 to go. Smash that like button. Let's do that. And then again, we got many things to be able to go over. But first, starting off, we got the Keenan Allen with the Bears there. Aaron Donald, I threw him up, even though it's not really a part of the free agent signings. But I didn't really want to make it just Aaron Donald. We want to make sure we're going over Aaron Donald and celebrating him. And obviously, a couple of my favorite photos of him of all time. And then another one here, manhandling an individual there. Oh, it's Slick Nick Foles. So we'll go over many different photos of these different players. And then once we go over Aaron Donald and then Keenan Allen, and then I'll let the rest of the viewership on Twitter/X, as well as the people that are in the room, kind of decide where we want to go, where we want to discuss. Do we want to go Russell Wilson in Pittsburgh? Do we want to talk about Tyron Smith now just joining the Jets within the last couple minutes? And we can go down the list of all the guys that have signed within the last couple days, as well as just recently in the last couple minutes. So let me first get a couple photos up of the Chiefs to celebrate my guy, Odin Sun. And then if there's anything else that he wants at that time, we can throw that up. But let me at least do that to show some appreciation and love to get us started. And then we'll go into Aaron Donald and his amazing accomplishments. And then we can kind of go over what we think. I mean, he is the best D tackle of all time. But as far as the best defensive player of all time, it's going to be debated. Of course, Lawrence Taylor, Reggie White are going to be on most people's 1-2. Either Reggie White number 1, Lawrence Taylor number 2, or Lawrence Taylor number 1, right? Reggie White, number 2. And then most of the, I think, individuals will have Aaron Donald normally sitting at 3. And there's going to be a lot of debate on it. It depends on how old you are. Did you actually get a chance to watch Lawrence Taylor and Reggie White like me and Sarah and Odin and a lot of the OGs did? And if not, then you're probably saying Aaron Donald number 1. But if you did get a chance to watch Reggie White, in person or on TV, as well as Lawrence Taylor, there's definitely going to be, because you got one that's a linebacker, one that's a D end, and then one that's a D tackle. So, and then also some people are going to be like, well, Lawrence Taylor was under the influence, and he wasn't sober, so he was out there smoking things and doing crazy things, and he wasn't, on drugs and whatnot. So even with that being said, I'm not sure if that is more impressive that he was able to come up with that stat line while he was under the influence, or it's one of those things that excelled his game, to a certain degree. But you have to think, Lawrence Taylor, we would assume, it wasn't under the influence every single game. So there's going to be some games where he was partying with multiple girls and under the influence, and then, getting 2-3 sack lunches, yum, 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 right at the game, or being just 100% sober and doing the same exact thing. So I feel that there are going to be some haters towards Lawrence Taylor because he wasn't really sober a lot of times on some, we don't really know the exact number of games that he didn't play, not sober, but we're also starting to hear a lot of NFL players within the last, maybe about 20, 25 years that supposedly, smoked, before they played, or, drank Hennessy, and said, oh, Marshawn Lynch, I only did a shot or a shot and a half, which probably means like 3 or 4, whatever it takes, maybe not drunk, but like slightly buzzed, to kind of, get going and whatnot. So it's not really a surprise when you hear about these guys kind of admitting that they were doing something, either smoking and drinking before the game, but Lawrence Taylor kind of took it to a whole nother level. So let's go up here and just throw up a couple here for Odin's son. Tony in the building, what's good? And let me just get a couple here. And then if he ends up showing up and if he has anything that specifically that he wants, then we'll make sure that we acknowledge him. Acknowledge me. And we'll do that. So I hope everyone's having a fantastic day. And I'm glad that free agency frenzy and the free agent market, we're still in full swing. So shout out to Odin's son. I appreciate you very, very much. And let me get a Kelsey up here let me get a Travis Kelce up here, and let me get an Andy Reid, and then we'll move on. So give me 1 sec here. Want to make sure we're showing the proper due diligence with the donos and whatnot. Let's go, baby. Shout out to Odin's son for starting it. And shout out to all the people watching on Twitter/X, as well as here in the room. And for the people, if they want to be able to chime in on the Twitter/X side, if you're watching, the only way that you can donate, besides, the Cash App, you can obviously do it from seeing on the bottom of the ticker. But, to be able to donate through Super Chat or comment or smash the like button, unfortunately, Twitter/X doesn't have that implemented yet. So you'd actually have to open up YouTube and come to the channel. And then, again, if you want to be able to hit me with a message through, my Twitter/X account on the next player that you would want us to go over, I will be able to see it pop up, obviously in my messages, but it would be a little bit easier if people just came through here and chatted and let me know where they wanted for me to go next. All right, Odin's son, thank you so much for your $25 dono. He's a big Chief fan, big Notre Dame fan, big New Jersey Devils fan living out in New York. It's my guy, the OG Odin's son. Thank you so much. All right, so Aaron Donald, let's go over some of the stats. And I put Aaron Donald in the same kind of category as Barry Sanders. In my generation, of watching, Lawrence Taylor, Reggie White, those guys are the OGs, DN, linebacker. But within the last 20 years, this has got to be the most dominant player on defense, hands down, and you look at Barry Sanders, these guys are doing it for about 10 years, and getting like Pro Bowls every year or all pros, and then walking away from the game on top. And that says a lot about your legacy when you can go out on top. Let's go over Aaron Donald 10-year career, and he actually followed the footsteps of Barry Sanders, pretty much the same thing. 10 years, walking away from the game on top. Only difference is Aaron Donald actually got a Super Bowl ring, and unfortunately Barry Sanders did not. But if he had that Emmitt Smith line, who knows how many Super Bowls he would have had. So in 2014, he was Defensive Rookie of the Year and got to a Pro Bowl, no surprise, okay? 2015, first team All-Pro, Pro Bowl. 2016, first team All-Pro, Pro Bowl. 2017, after getting into, kind of your prime. Usually it happens in year 4 through 7, where you figure the NFL out, you figure out the schemes and how they're going to play you. And I haven't seen anybody within the last 25 years get double, triple, or quadruple teamed more than Aaron Donald. So in his 4th year, which is your first year in your prime for most elite beast mode NFL players, NBA players, MLB players, that's usually the window where you see them take off. Okay. 2017, in his 4th year, Defensive Player of the Year, first team All-Pro, Pro Bowl. So there you go. 2018, Defensive Player of the Year, first team All-Pro, Pro Bowl. 2019, first team All-Pro, Pro Bowl. 2020, Defensive Player of the Year, first team All-Pro, Pro Bowl. 2021, first team All-Pro, Pro Bowl. 2022, the only designation where he wasn't first team, just a Pro Bowler, okay? And then in 2023, first team All-Pro, Pro Bowl, and then walked away from the game. It's literally, if you're going over a career, I mean, he literally had 1 year that he wasn't first team All-Pro after his rookie season, which he was Defensive Rookie of the Year in a Pro Bowl, and then he hit first team All-Pro every single year except for 2022. Fucking legend, incredible. And I'm not sure if we're going to see another Aaron Donald anytime soon, but amazing accomplishments. I know Seahawk fans, Niner fans, as well as Cardinal fans and NFC fans are probably thinking, if you're not a Rams fan, I don't have to worry about going against him anymore. But we will miss you, and you changed the game, and we're going to be waiting for the next guy, to be able to command that type of respect. And again, we will see guys get close, like Myles Garrett and TJ Watt, where they're getting double team and triple team. And also at the end of the day, for the haters or for the people that want to act like Aaron Donald really wasn't that good, you can also go and look at, like, let's say, for example, Chris Jones. Chris Jones, in like 19 playoff games, Chris Jones for the Chiefs only had 2.5 sacks. So I think a lot of people, when they watch Aaron Donald in the playoffs or in the Super Bowl, I think they were expecting a little bit more. So, because in some games, you would see Aaron Donald get 2 or 3 sack lunches, and then they may go, the Rams, 2 or 3 games, and you may not even hear his name called at all. So people are like, well, what's going on? But then people fail to realize, just because he didn't get a sack lunch doesn't mean that he wasn't effective of stopping the run, batting footballs down, and a guy that was consistently, getting double and triple teams. So you have to think that looking at that stat line and looking at that resume, first ballot Hall of Famer, just like Barry Sanders, and the best defensive player in this generation, and arguably the best player of all time with Lawrence Taylor, regardless if he was on drugs or not, as well as Reggie White. So I think for me, if you get these like big time guys, you want them to be able to play their best on the biggest stage. But again, most guys are not getting double and triple teamed. And if he wasn't getting double and triple teamed, like there's that famous highlight when he was in college at Pitt, where he literally tackled the quarterback and the running back at the same time. I have never seen a player do that ever, where he had one arm on the quarterback, one arm on the running back, and then brought both of them down. I mean, it was literally watching American Gladiators in 2014 and beyond. So amazing career. Shout out to you, AD, Aaron Donald. I'm going to miss you. And obviously, when the Rams ended up playing the Buccaneers after I ended up winning the Super Bowl, he was a big part of why I didn't go to the Super Bowl again. And him and Cooper Kupp and that team ended up getting the ring. So that one stung a little bit. I'll be honest, as a Bucs fan, but I knew that we weren't good enough to win it that year. And it just sucks that we were so close with that big comeback when we were down by like 20 points in the second half, and we almost came back. But again, things are meant to happen for a reason. And, for the Bucks to have 3 championships, or if the Bucks got 2 and the Rams got 1 and Aaron Donald got his ring, I don't mind that it ended up working out like this. Sometimes it's nice to be able to sprinkle the rings out, within a lot of the teams that are out there, unless you're like the New England Patriots and you want them all. But for me, I've gone to 2 Super Bowls. I've won both. And even though it stung at the time, I'm glad that Aaron Donald, at the end of the day, was able to get his ring, something that Barry Sanders was not able to do. Shout out to you, Aaron Donald. Let's go. Yeah, keep refreshing for news and let me know. And then we will go next here with Keenan Allen. So you can get a couple photos here. And then you let me know what direction that you want to go. If you want to go through the news that just posted and happened, we want to, and then we can kind of trickle down. But you let me know. I got a big list here of players and the money and the team. So pretty much Sarah and other people in the room, you let me know where we want to go. And again, we can go over some of the popular names that got signed or moved or cut within the last 3 days. And then we can go at that particular moment. So let me keep moving forward here. This one kind of surprised quite a few people, and the Charger offense looks completely depleted compared to where they were. You got Herbert and a lot of scrubs now at running back. I don't want to say, Gus the Bus Edwards is a scrub, but to go from Eckler to him, it's a big downgrade. Now you got no Mike Williams, you got no Keenan Allen. You lost a lot of pieces. Everett's gone, so it's like you better be very active in the draft, and you got to be able to pick someone better than Quentin Johnson. When you ended up bringing him over, he showed some flashes, but it didn't really pan out, I think, the way that they thought. And I'm not sure, how many receivers they're going to be looking at in the draft, if any, but I hope they do. But Keenan Allen moving on and going to the Chicago Bears obviously was a big move. So let me keep going here, and I'll find a couple more photos to go through. So one sec. So Bears acquire wide receiver Keenan Allen for the Chargers for only a 4th-round pick. And it's crazy nowadays where you can have a guy that's a first-ballot Hall of Fame player, and all you're getting in return is like a 4th, 5th, 6th-rounder, or something of a combination where they didn't get a 4th. Maybe it would have been like a 5th and a 7th, or something of that nature. Because 1st, 2nd, and 3rd-round picks hold a hell of a lot of value. Because you got to think there's going to be 1st-round picks that make it, 1st-round picks that are bust. Then you got 2nd-round picks that should have been 1st-round picks, but they had some kind of issue either with behavior or off the field or character issues. So you can still get a 1st-round player in the 2nd round. And then also in the 3rd round, you can also get guys that slipped in the 1st and 2nd with maybe an injury in college, and you can actually get a 1st-round talent in the 3rd round. And sometimes you can get some of those guys in even as late as the 4th round. So I know the Bears are going to be happy with Keenan Allen, and it makes you kind of wonder if they're going to keep Justin Fields or if they're going to go with Caleb Williams. But ultimately, if I'm the Bears, I think I keep Justin Fields because I don't think Caleb is going to be that much better, or Jaden Daniels or McCarthy, or Drake May. If it's me, I keep Justin Fields, right? And then get as much compensation for that 1st-round pick. And with the picks that you already have, I'm grabbing the best offensive lineman, if that's Jackson Powers and Alt, whatever it may be. I know some people want like Maserati Marv, on top of DJ Moore and Cole Kmet and Keenan Allen. It's unnecessary, because if you want Justin Fields or Caleb to be able to get the ball to any of these guys, they're going to need time, and the offensive line needs a hell of a lot of work. So I know it may not be like the most sexy thing to do when you got like all these amazing quarterbacks out there that are popular, and Maserati Marv, Marvin Harrison Jr. But if you end up being smart, and if the Bears actually go with offensive linemen with their first 2 picks and get the best like left guard, best left tackle, best center, whatever it is, that's going to elevate the Bears to the Minnesota Vikings level of third, sooner than later. And then depending on injuries with Jordan Love and Jared Goff in the offense, in a couple years, if you end up drafting like this and you end up, getting pieces to come over and polls can turn it around, I'm not saying the Bears are going to be a first-place team in the NFC North anytime soon, but if they calculate this correctly and they hit on the draft and everything starts coming together, it may only take 2 to 5 years. 2 is the earliest, and then, maybe as late as 5, where you can start creeping up, to Minnesota, and then maybe possibly beating Minnesota, and then either Green Bay or Detroit has major injuries, right? And then one of those slides down to 3, and then Chicago might be second place with like a 10-7 record with this type of roster, right? And then one team is above them, either Jordan Love and the Packers with 11 to 13 wins, or possibly Jared Goff and the Goffense with 11 to 13 wins at the top. But again, that's not going to be, the sexy thing to do, but it'll be the smart thing to do by grabbing the best offensive lineman you can, or getting one of the best offensive linemen and then get one of the best defensive players, because they haven't really been the same. When they were good, it's like you have guys like Brian Urlacher, Roquan Smith, Khalil Mack. So you need to be able to have that defensive leader, to be able to, provide not only leadership, but to strike fear into other teams instead of saying, oh, we're playing the Bears defense or we're playing the Bears, easy win, we're going to win by 14 or more. You want to get it to a point where you're like, damn, this offense is starting to come together. The coaching, everything is starting to slowly come together. And then if you look at it, you get like all Jackson Powers, let's say if they did something like that, and then they're going to get picks for the first pick in the draft. So there's more pieces that you could end up getting on the defense and the offensive line. And then you got Justin Fields. You still need to figure out the running back situation, right? But then you got DJ Moore on one side, Keenan Allen on the other, Cole Kmet, a whole revamped offensive line, and a few defensive studs. Are they still going to more than likely finish in 4th or 3rd place with Minnesota? Yeah, but it'll be a hell of a lot nicer to go from, 3 to 4 wins. And then if you can jump up and get to like maybe 7 or 8, and then the next year you go for 9 or 10, and then that third year, 10 wins or more. You have to, go in progressions. You're not going to be able to solve all these problems overnight. But I'm hoping that that's what they end up doing. And if they end up trading Justin Fields and they end up, getting Caleb Williams in the draft, and then they get a picks for Fields, just make sure that you're addressing the offensive line, the running back position, and the defense. And honestly, with running back, you could end up getting a sleeper running back in the 6th or 7th round. Yeah, it may not be as good as a 1st or 2nd round back, but if the offensive line is improved, you can end up getting guys, and there's still a few guys on free agency, the market where they could end up signing. It won't be a huge name, but again, a little bit of free agency and the current players that you have, and then looking at the draft, and then, kind of just steadily moving up and progressing. But I know Keenan Allen is probably a little upset, but again, you're probably going from one team that had a beautiful roster with quarterback, running back, wide receiver, all implemented there with Mike Williams and Keenan Allen and Eckler and Herbert. But again, besides Rashawn Slater and a few others, offensive line typically isn't the greatest. They play in spurts. Defense, absolutely horrible. And on top of that, they got Joey Bosa. They got Khalil Mack. They got Derwin James. You got Asante Samuel Jr. How the hell can you have 4 amazing players on defense and continue to struggle year in and year out with a roster that looks like it's one of the top 10 rosters on paper, but every single year it was the same damn thing. The injury curse on defense or on offense, and then just not being able to come together with a good head coach, a good OC, and a good play caller. Going from Anthony Lynn and then going from Staley. Now they have Harbaugh. But the thing that if you look at their offense now, they kept Bosa, they kept Khalil Mack. Harbaugh's a defensive guy. So they kept those two. They got rid of the offensive pieces and Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, and Eckler. But you have to realize how good those 3 pieces were on offense. So, the offense is drastically going to go down, but the defense may be able to go up, and maybe this will be a way that they slowly build this team in that vision to try to be able to get second place in the AFC West and to be able to try to get to 10 wins at some point or another. But you may be bad for a year or two, and that might actually fall into the hands of Harbaugh, where you actually end up being bad, where you get rid of a lot of those top tier guys. And then imagine if the Chargers end up having like a, let's say, let me see, 4-13 season, something like really fucking bad, and then they're in position for a top 3 pick in the draft, and then you can build around Herbert and then some of these other weapons. That's what they may be doing. I'm not sure if they're openly going to, because, Harbaugh coming in doesn't want to go in his first year and only win like 4 or 5 games. But again, with the pieces that you let go by actually being bad for a couple years, as long as Harbaugh has job security, you could end up building a monster all over again in Harbaugh's vision. But again, it just depends on the organization. And it seems like with the Chargers, hell, if you're going to give Anthony Lynn a fair shot and you're going to give Staley a fair shot, why would you fire Harbaugh, the best head coach you've had since Marty Schottenheimer, in a year or two? So more than likely, Harbaugh is going to be there for 4 or 5 years minimum. I would be shocked if they let him go prior to that, because it's going to take time to build the roster. So for a 4th rounder for Keenan Allen, it definitely was surprising. But again, depending on if they keep Justin Fields or draft Caleb Williams, this offense is going to look totally different. And then we'll have to see on how smart that the Bears really are, if they're going to draft O-linemen and key defensive players, or they're just going to go for putting butts in the seats and drafting Caleb Williams and Maserati Marv and ignoring the things that they need to be successful. But we will wait and find out. Chicago Bears trading for Keenan Allen for only a 4th rounder. Amazing. Crazy. Free agency frenzy. Wild. All right, let me get to the comments here real quick. And then I will get into any other requests that you guys may have for players that you want to go over. Tony in the building. What's good? How are you, bro? Yeah, please do. And then if we want to go like Tyron Smith next, or however you guys want to go, you let me know. Panthers hosting Mike Williams. See, the thing is Mike Williams is a great deep threat. And again, I think it was like, with the Chiefs, it's like, okay, you have a choice between Hollywood Brown and Mike Williams. Mike Williams is going to be better on the deep one-on-one balls. But the problem is Mike Williams gets hurt more often than Hollywood Brown, and Hollywood Brown is always hurt. So again, I think it's just, one of those things that maybe the Chiefs were considering Mike Williams, but again, you don't want to pay a guy millions and millions and millions of dollars, right, to only play half of the games every season, which it kind of feels like Mike Williams is in that boat, playing maybe 8 to 12 games a season instead of getting closer to maybe 14, 15, 16 games. If you miss 1 or 2 games a season, I think teams will be okay with that. Injuries happen. It's the NFL. But when you're out for a majority of the year, it seems like almost every single year, then a lot of teams are going to be weary to give you the bag, especially if it's going to be someone like the Kansas City Chiefs. David in the building. What's good? All right. So I will keep it 100, with Devin White. I mean, I always appreciated Devin White out of LSU, right? And I feel like with him, he was checked out, in some of the games last year, and then even late in the season the year before. So when he first came in, he was amazing, and he was a big part of us winning the Super Bowl. If we didn't have Devin White, we didn't draft Tristan Wirfs or Antoine Winfield Jr., we would have not won the Super Bowl. Plain and simple, right? And he was pretty damn good for the first couple years, like the first 3 years. But then you started to see, maybe some question marks with effort, sideline to sideline effort and taking plays off. And also, getting burnt in coverage. So sometimes, not being able to keep up with the tight ends that he was able to keep up with in the first 3 years, as well as just effort and tackling, and also some of the things that he was saying on social media, because he already was liking posts on Philadelphia, not last year, but the year before, where he was getting a little disgruntled and thinking that, do I want to sign, for this last year? Because usually you'll have your rookie deal, and then you'll have that 5th-year option, and either the team will have you or you try to sign him long-term. But we have to feel like, is your effort still there? And then he was talking about, the Philadelphia Eagles, and then there was a few posts on like Philadelphia Eagles, fans, and Devin White, and then he was like liking the posts that Philly, was putting out. Not only the Eagles, but the Eagles fan base and other people that were representing the Philadelphia franchise, right? So that was already a little alarming. And then obviously, we started off 3-1, and then a lot. And then if you remember, it was like the Bucks and the Lions, right? And we ended up losing to them, but we started off a lot stronger, than I think he anticipated. Then he kind of shut the fuck up, for a good chunk of the season, right? But then towards the end of the season, the same type of shit, was coming up, where the lack of effort, maybe pouting a little bit, maybe assuming that he deserves the bag and he's Devin White, this and that. So at the end of the season, he actually got benched. Not a lot of people know this unless you're a Buccaneer fan and you were paying attention. So there was other kind of no-name guys that were actually starting over him at the end of the year, based off his attitude and his effort. Now, do I think Devin White is still a good player? Yes. Do I think that he could be a good fit in Philadelphia? Well, it can't get any worse in Philly because the defense was absolutely garbage, obviously, when they played the Bucks, and also after you guys went 10-1 and you went on your slide. So defense was already shaky at the beginning of the year, but your offense and the tush push kind of hit a lot of those issues, right? Playing on, some shitty teams and getting to 10-1. But then after that happened, right? Then obviously the defense got exposed. I think the offense got exposed. Sirianni and the rest of the crew were just not on the same page. So as far as the Eagles, it can't hurt, bringing in a guy like that had success and maybe a change of scenery. And the thing is out of all the players, right, that was the only one that I knew that we weren't bringing back. And I had a good feeling because we had one of the best free agency periods, I think, of all time, because out of all our big name players, we literally brought all of them back. When's the last time that you've heard of a team have many, many free agents and big names like Baker and Mike Evans, right? And we literally brought everybody back, including Levante David. And if I had a choice between bringing back Levante David for his last year or, giving the bag to someone like Devin White, even though I bought 2 sewn jerseys of Devin White, it's not like I'm going to burn them or throw them in the garbage. So a part of me is going to feel a little butthurt that he's no longer on the Buccaneers. Will I still rock the Devin White jerseys when the Bucs play? Yes, I will. Those jerseys were expensive. They were like $150 to $180 each, so I'm not going to get rid of them. But I think that a change of scenery will be good for him. And for your case, I hope he ends up, being the same Devin White that he was in his first couple years. Because if you end up getting the Devin White that I saw last year, especially in the last 2 months, there's a chance that he may start for you guys. And then if the effort isn't there, or he gets burned by wide receivers or tight ends, or he's not following through on his tackles, or that lack of energy and effort, he will get benched. So I'm hoping it'll end up working out for you guys. I really was hoping that it was going to work out for us because I really wanted him to be a part of the Bucs long term. I don't buy $175 jerseys, a red one and a white one. I don't buy that type of shit for a guy that I think is going to be gone by his 5th year. So that one stung a little bit. So, and I normally am a defensive minded kind of guy. So I think that it can't hurt, and I don't necessarily think that you guys overpaid. And again, with Devin White and the money and whatnot, let me bring it up here. One sec. Scroll down because I got like 100 names here. I just got to find the Devin White and then all of the correct information. Let me scroll up with all my 100 names. Let's take a look at the money. So it's a 1 year prove it deal. 1 year prove it deal, $7.5 million. Based on how he played towards kind of the end of the year, he probably is only worth like 5. But based on what he did in the first 3 or 4 years, you got an extra $2.5 million. So again, if he plays well, then maybe the Eagles will sign him to like a 3 or 4 year deal. If not, then he'll hit the market again, and then we'll see what team wants to take a chance on him. So I think at this point, since you guys did not sign him to like 4 years, $40 million, then I would have said, damn, I hope it works out for you because it wasn't looking too good for us. But sometimes players need a change of scenery. But again, when he was commenting on the Eagles before, it was when you guys were like Super Bowl caliber. And then obviously we started 3-1, and then because he thought we were going to be a bad team this year. I don't think he was a believer in Baker. I think he was kind of a hater. And I think that he thought in the beginning of the season last year that the Bucs were going to finish in like 3rd or 4th place, or maybe 2nd and not make the playoffs. And then lo and behold, Baker was actually better than he thought. and Mike Evans was balling, and we started off 3-1, and then he, kind of shut the fuck up for a little bit. But that same type of shit attitude, came out in the last 2 months of the season, and then he was getting benched at the end of the year, which was really surprising for outsiders. But for us, that are, hardcore Buck fans, the writing was kind of on the wall. And again, you have to be very careful on the things that you say and do in interviews and social media. The GM, the owners, the players, they see that shit. It's not like people don't look on there and see what you're saying. So he kind of burnt the bridges, but I feel that he can be an impact player. But again, if he ends up being a bust for you, all you're out of is $7.5 million, and then you can try to find another linebacker in the future. But again, even with him, not being the player that I wanted him to be, let's throw a photo of him up here. You might as well. I still like him. I still am going to be supportive of him, and I just really wish it would have worked out with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The last thing I want to do is, again, buy a sewn jersey, let alone two. And then, if I buy two sewn jerseys, I'm expecting the guy to be there for 10 years. You know what I mean? 8, 9, 10 years. And then if he wants to move on after his second deal, so be it. You want to move on year 8, year 9, year 10, and then try another team and try to get the bag, fine. But, just a shame that we only had him for the 5 years, but hopefully it works out for y'all. But again, if not, you didn't sign him 4 years, $40 million. So you guys did your homework as well, talking to the Bucs and doing your due diligence, and you didn't overpay. 1 year, $7.5 million, and I hope it works out for you. And hopefully he gives you $17.5 million production at $7.5 million. Otherwise, you'll kick him to the curb, and then a third team will have to try him out. And again, if he goes to a third team, he might end up going to a team like maybe the San Francisco 49ers, and then that might be his home, away from home. At that point, you just have to try to go to a team that has a good defensive coordinator and good defensive pieces around him, so that way that he doesn't have to be like the number one guy. He can be like the third best guy on the defense, and maybe that'll be a role that he can slide into a little bit easier. Good question there and good comment. What do we got in the wrestling scene? Triple threat for the U.S. Championship. Logan Paul versus KO versus Randy. I like it. Brian in the building. What's good? Well, of course, it's Cap. So you got to get rid of Eckler. You had to get rid of Mike Williams. You had to get rid of Keenan Allen. You guys stuck with Bosa and Khalil Mack. And normally you would have been like, well, maybe I want to have one of those offensive pieces like Eckler or Keenan Allen over Mack. But if you go back and look at, Khalil Mack's stats last year, he was a beast. So he earned the right to stay with Harbaugh based off that beast mode season that he had. The only concern that I have, Brian, is that the running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends look like shit now. Like there's nothing there. You got Justin Herbert and then a bunch of guys that are, just guys, so I don't know what's going to happen in the draft, but hopefully you guys, have your eyes on, a couple running backs, a couple wide receivers, because the guys that you have, they're not garbage, but they're definitely a downgrade, from Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Eckler, currently on the roster. And I'm rooting for you guys. I hope it works out, but it's definitely going to be, it looks like a slight rebuild, at least on the offensive side of the ball. First, you got to get rid of the injury curse, right? The injury bug. You got a great coach now with Harbaugh, so I'm happy for you there. But the offense has got a long ways to go, and you don't want to, ruin Herbert's prime years. Otherwise, he'll go to another team, and then you'll have to start over at quarterback again. Big facts. Megan in the building. What's good? Reflect in the building. What's good, brother? $25. Let's get to $100. 75 to go. Smash that like button, baby. Well, if you're gonna go based off, the PFF stats, stats are just as good, if not better, in certain categories than Fred Warner. So Fred Warner is a better player than Tyrell, but Tyrell's PFF and some of his stats that he had with Buffalo looks like it could be a good fit. And plus, it is a good signing because Why? You have two starters, Bobby Wagner and another, that are no longer there. So as far as bringing someone in, someone that actually had good PFF stats, and it's a need because you have to fill those two spots with Jordan Brooks as well as Bobby Wagner. So it is a good fit. So again, some people might not like the Leonard Williams money. I actually like that signing. Tyrell, I like that signing. Sam Howell, we'll have to kind of wait and see if it ends up working out or not. Or, he might end up just being the backup, and we may never even see him on the field. And that's probably what most Hawks fans are wanting. They're going to want Geno out on the field for the whole season. And if I had to choose between Geno and Howell, there is no question Geno is the better quarterback, even though some people may want to disagree. But, it is what it is. And then we'll see in the future if they end up drafting another quarterback to replace Sam Howell or compete with Sam Howell in the future. Let's keep scrolling down in the comments. All right, no problem. I got you, bro. Scrolling down. Yeah, well, the sad thing is the market, Brian, has dictated that, because Keenan Allen, based on all of his accomplishments and how he played last year, you could say, well, 4th round pick is what he's worth at this time based on how he played last year. And if we were actually being fair, he's worth more than that. Honestly, if you ended up doing like a 3rd and a 6th or like a 3rd and a 5th, that is more proper compensation. Now, if he had a bad, terrible year, then if you just want to give a 4th or a 5th, whatever. But based on his stat line, I would know because I had him in fantasy football. So I know how good he is. And the only reason why his stats started to drop off late is because Herbert got hurt and then he got hurt. So for me, I think, if fair value would have been like a 3rd and a 5th. Then you wouldn't have had as many people, batting an eye. But again, the way that the NFL is structured now to not give appreciation to running backs and wide receivers, and they're not worth as much as they should be, then 4th round is what, the market is now. So it is what it is now. But if you're looking at what it is really honestly worth, he's worth a 3rd and a 5th. But, they had to settle for just a 4th. And it's sad because you could be a first ballot Hall of Famer, and at the end of the day, you may only be worth a 4th, 5th, 6th, or 7th round pick, which is ludicrous. But that's just kind of how the NFL is structured at this point. But I am rooting for you guys, and hopefully you guys can hit on that 4th round pick. It's going to be big. Aquila with a $5. No clue how Justin Simmons isn't signed. Well, it's money. So right now, there's probably about 12 teams that want Justin Simmons, but it's all about money. And you have to be able to understand that he's not a scrub. Between him and PS2 with Patrick Surtain, those were the best players on the team overall, and besides Cortland Sutton. So for a guy like Simmons, he's going to want to try to get as much money as possible. So just because he got cut, it wasn't due to performance. It was due to salary cap casualty. So I don't know who Simmons is going to go to, but if Howie Roseman scoops him up, that would be big, because then at that point you'd have Devin White and someone that you can trust on the back end. And obviously, playing the secondary position is very difficult in the NFL, and we will have to see what ends up happening with Justin Simmons. Let me throw a photo of him up here in just 1 second. And I appreciate the $5 dono. Thanks for being patient with me there. I just like to make sure I read everyone's comments. I like to scroll through as many as I can. So stacks on stacks, racks on racks with a little Cactus Jack. Bang, bang. $5 holla. And let me get a Justin Simmons photo up here for you. Justin Simmons is so good, he's a fit on any team in the NFL. And you can't say that about too many players. Like, he literally can do everything. Man, zone. You want him to do something, he can do it, and he'll do it at an elite level. And it just so happens sometimes when you get like almost too good, then the teams can't afford you. And then you have to make a decision on what guys you want to keep and what guys that might end up being a cap casualty. I'm a Bucs fan, and I would be drooling if I had the money and the space to be able to grab a guy like this. And we already know Philadelphia had some mad struggles, on defense, not only in the Super Bowl, but last year after they went 10-1. You're bringing in Devin White with a prove-it deal for a 1-year, $7.5 million deal. Will Devin White be on the team on Philadelphia long term? We don't know that yet, but it's a possibility if he starts playing like he did in his first 2 years with Tampa. Yeah, but Simmons, fantastic player. I 100% agree with you. And hopefully they can figure out the money, because you're not going to be able to get him on a 1-year prove-it deal. Chances are you're going to have to get him on like a 3-year deal. And then we have to decide how much money are you willing to pay one of the best secondary members. And I don't think that he would want to take a discount. Why would he? He didn't have, bad seasons. He just got cut because Denver is retooling, rebuilding, and they're in salary cap hell. So you try to be able to make more room. And unfortunately, you end up letting go of a guy that is one of the best in the NFL in Justin Simmons. Appreciate you. Let me know if there's any other photos that you're wanting besides the Justin Simmons. But let me throw up a Howie Roseman for you as well, since those were the guys that you commented on. And Howie, most people trust. Howie Roseman. Howie Roseman looking like Drew Brees right there, or is that just me? Kind of has like a Drew Brees-ish, not completely Drew Brees, but slightly, at first I was going to say, like, if Carson Wentz and Drew Brees had a baby, then you'd have Howie Roseman, but that's creepy. I know in that photo, man, he looks like him there. Maybe it's just the lighting with his hair, because normally his hair is like darker. Right here, let me see if I can get another photo here. There we go. He's got like the red hairs coming through with the light, but normally when I see him, he's got like darker hair. But I guess it just depends on the way that the light hits him and whatnot. I'm used to him looking more like this, like that, more like kind of darkish, brownish, grayish and whatnot. All right, Howie, I see you. I see you. You Drew Brees looking ass. All right. All right, let me keep scrolling down. Yes, thank you so much. I appreciate you. $30, 70 to go for the first goal. Matt in the building. What's good, brother? How are you? Yeah, but you have to understand how the money works, at the end of the year, at the end of a career too. So based off, first ballot Hall of Fame and all his accomplishments, yeah, he's worth a first or second round pick. But unfortunately, that's not how the value works. They don't value wide receivers and running backs at all, and especially wide receivers and tight ends at the end of their careers. So even though he has done everything that was asked of him and beyond, but unfortunately, that's just the way that the NFL works nowadays, where you get disrespected, where you are worth a first or second rounder, but you don't end up typically getting a first or second round pick. Sometimes it ends up being a 4th, 5th, or 6th or 7th pick. So, see, we know. Big dollar bills, y'all. And I don't think that he would want to sign for like 1 year, $17 million. He's trying to get like a 3-year deal. So, right? You see it. Fletcher Cox, yes. Yeah, and then Kelsey retiring too. So I'll throw Kelsey and Fletcher Cox up for you. So let me throw those guys up to show a little salute for you. Appreciate you. And then let me know where you guys want to go next. If we want to go with Tyron Smith, which is there any other notable ones, Sarah, that have dropped within the hour besides Tyron Smith, or was that the only one? So let's get some Fletcher Cox up here. Absolutely. I have a certain like layout here where I have a tracker, and I actually have how many names do I got on this? I have over 100. So your boy's been working, but yes, I'll go through. They're not in team order, but I can definitely go over that for you in a second. No problem. See if I can get a couple of photos with him with the visor looking all intimidating. Fletcher Cox is a Hall of Famer, in my opinion. Not my favorite defensive player all time on the Eagles. You know, for me, it's Brian Dawkins. That's my favorite. But I mean, besides the little Reggie White action that you had, before going to Green Bay. But I like linebackers and safeties the most. Have a lot of love for D tackles, D ends, and corners, but I think that my favorite two positions in football are linebacker, whether it be middle, a Mike, a Will, or an outside linebacker, and then free safety, strong safety. But much love for guys like Fletcher Cox. The dope photo. See if I can find ones with different jerseys. So we got one with the white jersey with the visor. See if I can find one with dark jersey, maybe without a visor, or we can see his eyes and his face. Let's see here. There we go. Stud right there. It's definitely going to be a rebuilding type of thing for Philadelphia. Shows you how hard it is to get to a Super Bowl after you went to a Super Bowl. It takes time to retool, rebuild, and to be able to afford everybody. Let me see if I can find one with his helmet off or a different type of pose. Let's see, any other ones that I like? All right, here we go. One after getting a sack lunch. Screaming, as usual. Stud, man. I mean, the Bucs and the Eagles had many battles, and we definitely had to try to double team him as much as we could. Maybe not as much of a threat as like an Aaron Donald, but a big key cog of Philadelphia's defensive line, and one of the best players they've had in the organization ever. So shout out to Fletcher Cox, and I hope he enjoys everything, obviously, post Philly. And then let's get Kelce up here. Try to get some black uniform, white uniform, green uniform. And Jason Kelce is undoubtedly first ballot Hall of Fame. And the thing that I noticed out of him right away that not a lot of people would notice is his athleticism at center. And it's the most important position on the line, other than left tackle or right tackle, depending if you have a left-handed quarterback, then you would need a right tackle. If you're a right-handed quarterback, a left tackle. But in my opinion, a center is just as important as a left tackle or right tackle. And in all honesty, I think it's more important, because he's the guy that's calling the protections up front. So it's almost like two head coaches, the center and the quarterback, as well as the offensive coordinator and the head coach, all working together, and him being able to understand if it's zone or man coming in front of him and being able to relay that information to his quarterback. And not only that, being able to pull, run blocking, pass blocking, and to be able to hike the ball, and then to be able to run past the guard and the tackle, and then to be able to block a defensive lineman, and then to be able to block a linebacker, and then possibly get his hands on a corner or safety to end up getting the running back additional yards or a touchdown. You just don't see a lot of centers that have the ability to pull with effectiveness like Jason Kelce did. He might have been the best center in this generation at pulling. First ballot Hall of Fame, fantastic guy on and off the field. And if you haven't seen the Kelce podcast with him and his brother Travis, you should check it out. Stud. And one of the true emotional leaders for the Philadelphia Eagles. They would have never won a Super Bowl without him. 100%. That's how big of a piece that he was for Philadelphia. You don't have Kelce, you don't have Fletcher Cox, 0 Super Bowls. Not happening. You have to have that stud up front on the D-line and that stud, up on front, and of course they've had an amazing group of offensive linemen. I mean, at one point or another, they were a 3-4 deep. They might have been like 4 deep, and then one guy was a starter, but he was above average. And Philly has had one of the best offensive lines for a while, but now the D-line and O-line are going to have to retool, and hopefully they can get the next Jason Kelce to help them out, and hopefully they can get the next Fletcher Cox in the next couple years as well. Shout out to you. I appreciate you, brother. Hope you enjoyed the photos. All right, let's take a quick look to see what we have here. So let me look. All right, so obviously, and I'll throw up photos as I go over each one for you, Megan. All right, so obviously, 3 years, $64.5 million. It seems, like a lot of money. But again, he actually, made his presence. I mean, of course, you want his stat line to be, maybe better than what it was, to some people, you know what I mean? But, combined tackles, 62, 5.5 sack lunches. So for a guy that plays, in the interior, but you can move him at D tackle or D end, 5.5 is actually pretty good. 0 fumbles, 0 interceptions, 0 TDs. But if you're actually looking at, from him coming out of college and looking at the numbers, right? So he's been in the league for a little bit, but these are his numbers. So 3 sacks, 7, 2, 5.5, 11.5, 6.5, 2.5. Right? And then the last 3, 7, 4, and then 5.5. So, for the money, it may seem like a lot, but he's got potential to get, 5 to 11.5. So, obviously 11.5 if everything goes great, but it seems like he's going to be kind of hovering around that 5 to 7, kind of range. And based on that type of stat line, he was already there last year. So it's not like you just brought him in. So I don't mind it. And like I said, as long as he's producing. Now, if you're going to be paying $64 million and the guy has 2 sacks or 1, then I'm like, what are we doing here? But for a guy that actually has, over 4 sack lunches for being an interior defensive lineman, I had Warren Sapp on my team, so I already know what it's like to have an amazing D tackle or a D lineman or a guy that can even shift over and play D end if needed. It sounds like a lot. It is. But again, he was already on the team. The team liked him. They gave him the money. So I don't have any problems with the deal at this point. And again, he's 29 years old and he's a big body. He's 6'5", 302. So again, you need to be able to keep building the O-line and D-line. And again, letting a guy like that go would have been pretty detrimental based on how the D-line sits currently at the moment. So I don't mind this one at all. So 3 years, $64.5 million. Now, in reality, he might be worth about 50 to 55, but they rewarded him with that extra 10 or 15 million, just based on what he did last year in Seattle. All right, let's keep moving forward. See if I can find anyone else that's on my big board. And obviously with let's go next one here with the Tyrel Dodson. And he's not a big name, so a lot of people have no idea who he is. And it's like, especially when you get a guy that isn't like a real big popular name, sometimes people are, okay, like what are we getting here out of this player? But let me see. And it's not normal to see a linebacker wearing 25. So that may have fooled a lot of people right out of the gates too. Let's see, where are you at here? All right. 6 foot, 237. He's 25 years old, 4 years experience. He had 70 combined tackles, 2.5 sack lunches, 1 fumble, no picks, no touchdowns. But if you actually look at his PFF stats, his stats compare with Fred Warner. Fred Warner is a top 5 linebacker in the game, and Tyrel isn't. But based off PFF and ability on the field, this was a very underrated signing. And again, you have 2 starters that are no longer there with Jordan Brooks and Bobby Wagner. So not only did you bring in a guy to fill a need, it's a guy that actually played very well, for the Buffalo Bills, even though the Buffalo Bill defense at times is, kind of suspect. But if you're looking at PFF and you're looking at some of the other kind of underlining statistics, this was a sleeper signing, and I absolutely love this signing for Seattle, because not only did you guys need it, but you got like a sleeper name that not a lot of people are familiar with. And I think it's going to be a good fit for Seattle. So I don't have any, issue with this. So if I was giving a grade on this, I would give this like, B, a B grade. Obviously if you could have saved a little bit of money to get another player, that would have been ideal, but you have to pay a player based off the market of other D tackles. And a lot of other D tackles are getting a shitload of money. So they just had to match the market. So they just, did what they needed to do to get the player done. So this was like a B plus, but it was a good move. And then I think this one is kind of low key, like an A. I think this one could end up turning into an A if he ends up getting over 5.5 sack lunches. Now, if he ends up getting 6 to 11, then yeah, he's going to be worth every single dollar that you paid him. But if he ends up getting, about what he got last year, 5.5, then he got his money worth. Now, if he only gets like 1 or 2 sack lunches and he gets hurt, then, you can't really predict injuries. Then you might have overpaid. But again, as long as he stays healthy the whole year, I don't think you're going to get 1 or 2 sack lunches. At the very least, I would assume 4.5, but somewhere between 4.5 and 8 is realistic, but you never know. He could have a breakout year and have something between 8 and 11.5 if everything goes right for him. So I don't really see a problem with either of these 2 guys, and these are needs that you guys needed to address and fill. So, and let me go to see if there's anyone else on my board after that for Seattle. Seattle's been a little quiet. They haven't really made the biggest splash just yet. And of course, they're going to be making a lot of moves in free agency. No, the NFL draft. So, and there's still a lot of names still left. And then obviously the Noah Fant, 2 years, 21 million. So if you had to choose between, either Noah Fant or the other, you obviously, I think, made the right decision there with Dissly, because, Noah Fant is a little bit younger. So, and the Noah Fant deal, you didn't necessarily overpay, it's just giving you a little bit of depth at the position. And at some point, hopefully you can get someone better than Noah Fant, like a Brock or someone else of that nature. So we'll throw up a photo. So not a lot of moves, but overall, I don't really see a problem with anything that they've done. They're really going to be judged on what they do in the draft rather than what they've been doing so far in free agency. Shout out to Cyberpunk. Appreciate you. Helping out on the Twitter/X and also helping out with a monster dono to be able to make sure that my cell phone doesn't get turned off, and then we can help Paisley go to the vet. So thank you. I appreciate you very, very much. We've had some really big contributors to the channel, not only in the last couple months, but the last couple years, but especially, last year and this year reflect Megan, Cyberpunk, Odin Son, as far as the bigger dollar amounts and whatnot. So thank you so much, man. I appreciate you. What's good, my guy? Thank you so much for your support. It's going to help out so much, and I already know with the cell normally is, going to be around that $100 number and whatnot. And then I'm pretty sure the vet visit is going to cost me somewhere between, I hope it's not too much, but I assume it's going to be in the $150 to $250 range, but realistically probably $200 to $250. But again, it's nothing for injuries, but there's a couple shots that she needs to get, and then just a maintenance. They're going to weigh her, make sure that she's healthy and everything. So thank you for your support. It means so much. Because again, if I wasn't able to have this happen today, who knows if my cell phone is on tomorrow, and then I have to decide on when I can get the appointment done for Paisley. So thank you, man. I appreciate you. Cyberpunk with a 300. Appreciate you, my guy. Big dog. Thank you. I always get a little bit worried at certain points. And sometimes it's at the beginning of the month I get a little worried. Sometimes it's in the middle of the month. And sometimes it's at the end of the month. And again, it all depends if I end up getting, through Venmo or through Cash App or through different things where I can actually have access to it now. And then obviously with the Super Chat donos, I don't get that until the following month. So we appreciate all of the Super Chats that we end up getting. But if I end up having to take Paisley to the vet, the Super Chats can't help me right now. So at least at this very moment, those will help towards rent and other things that need to be paid in the near future. So thank you so much, man. Stacks on stacks, racks on racks with a little Cactus Jack. Bang, bang. $300 dono. That is good for my mental health, and I appreciate you. Do you have anything that you want to be able to look over for photos? I can go over anything that you want to go over either through the Chiefs side. If there's anything wrestling related that you want me to go over, I can do that as well. But for the time being, let's throw up a little Chris Jones, since we got Odin was donating earlier, and then now we got Cyberpunk in here, and I had some cheap photos earlier. So, but if there's anything that you want to go over, I don't know if you're just stopping by and you have to go, or if you're going to be here for a couple minutes or not. But let me know how long you have, if it's just kind of a drive-by dono, or if you got a few minutes you can hang out. But I was planning on doing about 2 to 3 hour streams, so we're about an hour and 7 minutes in. And thank you for your generosity and your love and your appreciation to me and Paisley, as well as the other mods, and setting the example on what we do here on the NWSF. Thank you so much, man. Appreciate you. Chris Jones, D-line in 5 years, $160 million. And if you don't have Chris Jones, you're not winning Super Bowls. And even if the numbers were a little bit lower than people expected in the playoffs in the Super Bowl based off his sack lunches, just like Aaron Donald, there's not another guy in the NFL that gets double teamed more, than Aaron Donald and maybe a guy like Chris Jones. So always remember, when you see a stat line a little bit lower than anticipated, a big reason is because they're getting double, tripled, and quadruple teamed. Not everyone is getting one-on-one coverage. Even a guy like Fletcher Cox was getting double teams, and we already know Aaron Donald, was getting double and triple teamed. And salute to him, and hopefully he enjoys retirement. And then now with Chris Jones, being in the NFL and being as dominant as he is, since Aaron Donald retired, this may be the best D tackle in the NFL. I mean, is there a better player at D-line, D tackle than Chris Jones? Hard to say. Fletcher Cox is gone, right? Aaron Donald is gone. We can go down the list, but if there's someone that has better stats than Chris Jones, fine. But for my money's worth, this is the guy. and he is worth every single dollar. 5 years, $160 million, and 6'6", 310, 29 years old, an absolute fucking stud. Let's look at his stats real quick. For all the haters thinking that he's not worth the money, which I don't really think that we have too many, unless you're like a Raider, Charger, or a Bronco fan, right? 2016, 2 sack lunches, just kind of getting used to the game. 2017, 6.5. And then the explosion happened, just like the explosion you see in the background. Year number 3 in 2018, 15.5 sack lunches at the D tackle position. Get out of here. 2019, 9 sack lunches. 2020, 7.5 sack lunches. 2021, 9 sack lunches. 2022, 15.5 sack lunches. And 2023, 10.5 sack lunches. And you know the best thing about Chris Jones? The OG doesn't get hurt. Games played, 16, 16, 16, 13 in 2019, 15 in 2020, 2021, 14, 2022, 17, 2023, 16. So for a majority of his career, he's playing every single game, or he's maybe missing a game or 2, but no more than 3. Absolute stud, just like Cyberpunk and Odin Sun. I appreciate you. Thank you so much, man. And we miss you too. Yeah. And like I said, my cell phone thanks you. And Paisley says woof woof to woof. And again, to be able to take care of the health of my pup is my number one concern. So thank you so much. And again, even if I can't buy things for myself, that's okay. As long as I can continue to do the dream, to get the cell phone paid, get the internet bill paid. I think I'm pretty sure the internet bill, obviously ended up going through. But I have a StreamYard bill that I assume that's going to come out also for like $25, I assume tomorrow. So that's going to help out with that too. So thank you. Appreciate you. You and Odin, Aquila, and many others. Thank you, man. What's your feeling about Snead? You want him back, right? Let's throw him up. Yeah, very crazy offseason. And then we'll throw up a Hollywood Brown for you. How are you feeling about the Hollywood Brown signing? You like it? You don't like it? Would you have rather had Mike Williams instead, even though he's injury prone? I mean, they're both injury prone, but Hollywood not as much as Mike Williams. And then you guys will maybe still be looking at a wide receiver in the draft, like, maybe not like a Rome Odunze, because he'll probably be off the board, but maybe a guy like Troy Franklin from Oregon would be a great fit. Or an Xavier Worthy from Texas. And if L'Jarius Sneed wasn't on the team last year, there is no Super Bowl win. Him and McDuff, ended up playing fantastic football. And, you can't take away from that. It's defense wins games and defense wins championships. And remember, right, normally it's, top 5 offense, top 15 defense. And then they ended up flipping the script. And then it ended up being, number 1, number 2 defense, top 5 defense, top 15 offense. But when it ends up going to the playoffs, you can't doubt Patrick Mahomes one bit, and you have to trust him more than any of your favorite quarterbacks that are out there. Patrick Mahomes over Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes. And Joe Burrow might be the only guy that is close, but again, if you're looking at team fit, the difference is Joe Burrow doesn't have Andy Reid, and Joe Burrow doesn't have Travis Kelce. Big facts. There's a stud right there. L'Jarius Sneed. I hope that he comes back for y'all. But again, we'll have to wait and see. Tranquilback was a very low-key, underrated signing. I love him. Very, very low-key. And again, if you're an NFL diehard, you know who Tranquil is. And if you're a Chief fan, you know. But if you're just an occasional fan, yeah, you have no idea who Tranquil is. But the real OGs know. Exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking. See, we're on the same page. Just kind of like a prove it deal. Exactly. Let's throw up a Tranquil up here for you as well. And then we'll put up a Hollywood Brown. What's going on in the cyberpunk world? Anything new going on? You still working days? And I'm jealous that you ended up going to Baltimore to the AFC Championship game. And I feel sometimes, the AFC, NFC Championship games end up being just as good as the Super Bowl, sometimes even better than the Super Bowl. But it just seems like anytime Patrick Mahomes is in a Super Bowl, besides the one against Tampa, it's like must-see TV. It's nerve-wracking as hell, but you're just waiting for that like Tom Brady moment that Mahomes is going to deliver. And besides one Super Bowl with an amazing defense from my Tampa Bay Buccaneers, you guys are the real deal, Holyfield, and I don't think you guys are done. I think there's a very good chance that you can add on one or two more, or possibly even more than that, depending on how long you can keep Kelsey, Mahomes, and Reed together, the big three. Just like Phil Jackson, Michael Jordan, and Scottie Pippen, Phil Jackson, right? Kobe, and Shaq. You want to keep the trifecta together. Chris Jones, baby. L'Jarius Sneed, franchise tag, 1 year, $19.8 million. Just take the franchise tag, play the year out, and then restructure and negotiate. But I don't want to see him go to another team after the tag. You took the tag, take the money. It's a lot of money. It's almost $20 million. You've earned it. And if they move on from you, they got Trent McDuffie, and then they got to draft another corner, which they have been drafting corners heavy the last 2 to 3 years. But a combination of Sneed and McDuff is better than just McDuff and drafting another guy. So I'm hoping that he'll just play out the franchise tag, and then they can pay him, and he stays a Chief. That's my want. But again, will I get what I want? Who knows? And I would assume most Chief fans want him there, based off how he played in the last couple years, but especially how he played this year. Again, if you didn't have him, you're not going to the Super Bowl or even winning the Super Bowl, in my opinion. He was a very key contributor, of that defense, especially going from top 15 defense all the way to, in some weeks, number 1 or number 2. So, and, top 5 for a good chunk of the year. And then towards the end, was ranked number 2, number 3 overall defense. So Hollywood Brown, 1 year, $11 million, a prove-it deal, and it gives you a deep threat for Mahomes to go deep with, like he used to go with Tyreek. And Hollywood's got the speed. A little like baby D-Jax. See where I want to go with Hollywood. We'll go Ravens photo and Cardinals photo. He's got a lot of athleticism. That's for damn sure. And usually in fantasy, if he's available, on the wire here and there, I'll usually grab him. Will I have him on my team, for the whole season? Probably not. But, usually he's rostered on my team at some point of the season. And then now going with Mahomes, obviously that's going to take away a few looks from Rashee Rice. But again, as long as it's not going to be someone that is like Kadarius Toney or Sky Moore, where they were having problems dropping the ball, as long as he doesn't have a case of the drops, Hollywood Brown, and they can go deep to him, it could really pay big dividends to stretch out the defense, and then they can work on intermediate routes, and then that can help Pacheco get a little bit more as well. But I like the deal. 1 year, $11 million for Hollywood Brown. And I'm looking to see if there's anything else here on the Chiefs side. Tranquil, 3 years, $19 million on a very friendly deal. I don't know how many people would have offered more, but again, they gave him probably $4 more million extra than he deserved. He probably deserved 3 years, $15 million. Tranquil, but based on how he played, leadership, and just keeping it in-house, keeping the family together, I don't mind paying a few extra $1 million. And then the only other one that we're worried about, I don't want to say worried, but Michael Dana. And I think edge rusher for Kansas City, if he joins a new team, I don't think anyone gives a shit for him. If he comes back, he comes back. If he doesn't, it's not a big deal. Tranquil would have been the much bigger acquisition, as well as Chris Jones and obviously L'Jarius Sneed. So. Yep, I agree. Will be interesting to see the team once Travis leaves. And once Travis leaves, if they end up getting a top 5 tight end, it doesn't have to be the number 1 guy, but if they can find a guy in the draft like a Brock Bowers at some point or a Sam Laporta type of guy, they'll be exactly where they're at right now. You know, it's like, obviously we know Kelsey's number 1, and as he gets older, if there's another tight end that passes him, you know, whether it be Andrews or Kittle or even Sam Laporta, you know, and he ends up going to number 2 rank, number 3 rank, it's not going to matter. All the numbers are still going to be pretty much the same. I don't see Travis falling off the face of the earth. You know, he's too athletic. He's motivated. You know, he's got a new girlfriend, which might end up being a wifey at some point. And yeah, we'll see how long Travis plays. And we would assume that Travis would probably be the first one to leave besides Andy. It's either Andy will leave first or Travis will leave first. Definitely not Pat. So, you know, more than likely Travis will probably be the first, and then they'll have to replace him. And again, the people that they have on the roster now aren't good enough to fill his shoes. So they'll have to try to find someone in the next, 2 to 4 years. Candace in the building. What's good? Yeah, they totally gutted the team, on the offensive side of the ball. And then the defense, they kept Bosa, they kept Khalil Mack, excuse me. And then again, Harbaugh's there, so they may end up being a bad team year one on purpose to be able to get high draft picks and then to be able to build it from there, especially if Harbaugh's got, 4 or 5 years for sure. It might actually benefit them doing the strategy that they're doing by getting rid of Eckler and his salary, getting rid of Mike Williams and Keenan Allen for their salary. Maybe the offense is shitty, the defense gets better, hopefully, and they don't have an injury bug. And then hopefully, before Herbert's prime is over, they can get to second place in the AFC West and get to 10-7. But they definitely are gutting the team on the offensive side of the ball, 100%. And no more Tommy Townsend. That is true. But you ended up bringing in, formerly of the Bills, and then they had the rape accusation or whatnot. Obviously, that did not go through, and she lied or whatnot, or and then it got dropped, and then kind of ruined his NFL career to start off. But he's getting a second chance, and obviously they went for the youth movement. But the punt god is going to get a second chance in Kansas City. I mean, to go from Buffalo to Kansas City and having all of those things come out, I mean, pretty crazy. Like having your NFL career ruined before it even really got started. And he's got a big leg too. But for all the Tommy Townsend fans, I imagine it's going to be a little difficult, to be able to move on. But again, Tommy did everything asked of, so sometimes you can't keep every single player. But this will be the key right here, depending on what they do, because if they end up trading him, then then they'll have Trent McDuff, and he'll be the one, and then they'll have to draft a corner in the draft, more than likely. So we'll see. Good call. You have like ESP, man. I was thinking about going to Russ in Pittsburgh. So let's throw up a photo of Russ. Shaved his head. But it shows you that draft with Kenny Pickett, literally every single one of the guys is no longer on their original team. So we can get excited, for quarterbacks. But year in and year out, it's not necessarily going to be a bunch of goats and legends. Sometimes, you're going to have a draft and it looks like it's going to end up being pretty good. And then you start to realize that, oh, shit, these guys aren't as good as we maybe originally thought. And that ended up being one of the worst quarterback drafts. I don't want to say of all time, but if you go and look at the Kenny Pickett draft, pretty shitty draft overall. with like Malik and him. Russell Wilson on the Steelers. So let me go down here to go over the compensation and whatnot. But it shows you how quick they give up on people. You know, they give you a couple years, and if you don't show enough, you know, and you can fire the offensive coordinator, bring in another offensive coordinator, you know. But again, it's like you wanted to do the cute thing and bring in the guy from Pitt. But again, you start to realize, you know, Ben Roethlisbergers don't grow on trees. You know, it's going to take a while before they can find someone that is a good fit. One sec here. All right, so you got a 1-year deal for the veteran minimum of $1.2 million. But again, Denver is picking up the rest of the money that was going to be owed to him. So, you know, Broncos are going to end up paying the rest of the money there. So it's, you know, a prove it deal to see if, you know, you can end up getting it done. I don't think it's going to be anything long term, because you got to think of the rest of the division, right? So you got Russell Wilson on Pittsburgh, right? You got Najee and you got Jaylen Warren. Offensive line stinks, right? And you got Freiermuth. You know, Deontay Johnson is gone. The guy that could benefit the most out of it is George Pickens, where if Wilson goes to Pickens like he did with Cortland Sutton, George Pickens will be a name next year. You know, but if not, and he gets sacked all the time, or he decides that Pickens isn't his favorite, and it's like Freiermuth, then, you know, Pickens will be, you know, complaining and screaming on the sideline like he has been, kind of immature, you know, based on what we've seen so far. Defense at times is good with TJ Watt and with Minka, but still they have a lot of holes on that defense. And you got, you know, Bengals and Joe Burrow, and they look like, you know, that offense is getting a little dismantled. Cleveland still looks like they're going to be a pretty good team, you know, based on what we've seen there. But, you know, you never know. It's going to be up and down. And then the Baltimore Ravens, you would assume, would still be at the top. So, like, even with Russell Wilson signing, I don't think the highest I could see them going is third in the division, maybe over the Bengals or the Browns. And I still would more than likely assume that you're going to have Cleveland or Baltimore at the top, unless Cincinnati can figure out what they're going to be doing if they go away from T. Higgins and they go away from Tyler Boyd and they don't have Joe Mixon anymore either. It looks like, you know, the Bengals got worse. The Steelers are still shitty, and Cleveland and Baltimore are the two best teams at the top. But depending on who's quarterback for Cleveland, it's no longer Joe Flacco because he's on the Colts. So if it ends up being Deshaun Watson, we don't know if he can play throughout a full season. So it is possible for the Steelers to get to 10-7 with Russ and be second place, but they're going to get absolutely destroyed in the wild card if that ends up happening. But it's probably more likely that the Steelers end up getting to 7 wins rather than 10. So, I mean, for the money, you know, it was cheap. The Broncos, you know, picked up the rest of the money, but I don't think Russell Wilson at this point is a fit anywhere. You know, he's a distraction. So does he still have some skills left? Yes. But again, it shows you, if you rub people the wrong way off the field, they're not going to want to fuck with you after you've gone past your prime. Look at T.O. You know, if you're going to be an asshole, you know, off the field or on the sideline, or you're going to be a diva, you know, when you get older, right? A lot of times teams are going to be like, fuck you. We don't even want to deal with your drama and your bullshit. Even if you can get 26 touchdowns and 8 picks, they would rather go somewhere else than deal with your bullshit on the sidelines or your aura or your vibe when you don't come across as like genuine. You feel that in your brain, Russell Wilson, you feel that you're Patrick Mahomes or Tom Brady. Guess what? You're not. You used to be a top 3 quarterback, Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson when you were on the Hawks, but you're nowhere near the player that you were back then. And obviously your reputation off the field has damaged your career. So I don't know. We'll see where Russell goes. Let's bring up his stat line because he actually had a pretty good stat line last year, just like Baker Mayfield did. But the difference is that people want to play for Baker. I don't think anyone really wants to play with Russ. And I don't know if he really makes anybody better. 3,070 yards, which was 19th, 26 touchdowns, which was top 10, number 9, and 8 picks, tied for 91st. So 26 and 8, but his QBR was 50.7, which was 21st, which is terrible. So, keep that in mind, based off the touchdown to interception ratio and everything that you have there. But again, numbers overall, if you're looking at that stat alone, pretty good. But again, when you end up rubbing people the wrong way, no one really wants to work with you, moving forward. So at least the Steelers weren't dumb and gave him 3 years, $30 million. But again, Denver is picking up a lot of that massive contract where he was going to be getting $20-30 million a year based off Denver being stupid. So this is pretty much a proven deal. But even if he ends up giving you 26 and 8 stat, 26 touchdowns and 8 picks again, I don't think I would sign him. Even if the stats were good, I would just try to find someone else. But again, Pittsburgh is finding out that it's a lot harder to find the replacement for Big Ben, and it clearly isn't Kenny Pickett. Will his numbers be better than Kenny Pickett? Yes. Could he lead the Steelers to the playoffs? Yes. Could the Steelers finish in 3rd or 4th in the division with him? Yes. But again, I don't really think that the players are going to connect with him. I feel that if anything, the players are going to get frustrated with him. The running backs are going to get frustrated. The O-line is going to get frustrated. The coaching staff is going to get frustrated. And the number one guy that's going to get frustrated is probably George Pickens. And don't be surprised if you see him in a yelling match on the sideline at some point next year. So, for the amount of money, Russ is definitely getting overpaid, based on the Denver deal. But, obviously only having to pay like $1 million, for 1 year, I guess that's as cheap as you can get the veteran quarterback minimum. That's what I was thinking too. I mean, I think that, it just depends on what the Bengals and the Browns do. Ravens win the division again. If that happens, what are we looking at with Cleveland and Cincinnati? Because it seems like Cleveland should still be decent, close to 10 wins. And you assume if Burrow's healthy for a full season that they would probably be close to that number as well. But if they have injuries, you might end up going down to like 8 or 9 wins, and then you miss the playoffs. And then, I kind of see this team being more of like a 7-10 team rather than a 10-7. So somewhere between 7 and 10 wins is probably what you're going to end up getting with Pittsburgh. Yeah, not making any moves and thinking that you can do the same thing over and over and over again and get different results. That's the Dallas Cowboys for you. We'll throw up Jerry. Jerry needs to go. McCarthy needs to go. And Dak needs to go. But it doesn't seem like, any of these things are going to happen anytime soon. And this is the epitome of caring about money rather than winning a championship. He says that they care about winning a championship every single year, but they clearly don't. It's like, if you want to be known as one of the best regular season teams in the NFL of all time, great. But then you're also going to be known as one of the biggest chokers in the playoffs all time. And that's not a good look. But for him and his wife, he doesn't care. He's making millions and billions, especially if you're making like practices like an event, like going to a movie. Those things need to be closed off. The guy is just trying to make money anywhere he can. He's trying to make it like a concert venue rather than an actual football experience. And that's the fucking problem. That guy right there. Blaze in the building. What's good? At first I was like, no upgrade for Pitts. Kirk Cousins, but I knew you were talking about Pittsburgh. But Russell Wilson stats, even though it's not an upgrade, they could be better than Kenny Pickett, though. Because I think a lot of times, when we have a vision of a player, whether it be Baker Mayfield rubbing people the wrong way or Russell Wilson and his attitude off the field rubbing people the wrong way, these are Kenny Pickett stats. Okay, so it is going to be an upgrade for Pittsburgh. Okay, because obviously Russell Wilson ended up getting you 26-8. Would you rather have 26-8, right, out of this guy, right, even though he's not popular? Or would you rather have 7 touchdowns and 9 picks out of Kenny Pickett, or last year's stats, 6 touchdowns and 4 picks? I'm pretty sure you would want Russell Wilson's stats. So Kenny Pickett, not the truth. They're trying to find that Big Ben clone, but again, it may take a long time before they find another one of those. And then by that time, they find the Ben Roethlisberger clone. Mike Tomlin probably won't be there. So kind of crazy how shitty he was. 7-9, 7 touchdowns, 9 picks, 6 touchdowns, 4 picks. Jesus Christ. Come on, Pitts. You're terrible. Yeah, the Queen signing was big. Surprised that he didn't go to Seattle. Would have been probably a better fit there, but Minkah Fitzpatrick, Patrick Queen, TJ Watt. I can see why Patrick Queen wanted to go there, and he gets to have revenge on his former team. Another reason why guys go within the division. Yeah, but if the offensive line is garbage, you can't expect, I had Najee and Jalen in fantasy at some point throughout the season, and, they're going to give you a little, but they're never going to be able to give you, top 12 stats based off running back production unless you start, improving that offensive line and improving it drastically. Oh, nice. You're a Titans fan? We got a few Titans fans that are on the channel. Hell yeah. It's going to be tough, and it's crazy too that if you weren't going to pay for AJ Brown and then all of a sudden you're going to end up paying shitloads of money for DeAndre Hopkins and Ridley. Well, I think at that point they realized, well, we couldn't get the deal done with AJ, but also too, the quarterback changed. So if AJ Brown would have stayed, it's not like Ryan Tannehill was the same Ryan Tannehill that he was before when they had Tannehill, Henry, and Brown, where they were making the playoffs, pretty consistently. So it's kind of like a whole rebuilding process for the franchise. So. Should they draft a quarterback in the second round for who? The Titans? Who are we talking about? We're talking about the Titans, or are we talking about Pittsburgh? Ducks won. Nice. They get an automatic bid to March Madness if they win tomorrow. You hear that, Matt? My buddies are watching. They just messaged me. Let's go. Go Ducks. Yeah, no kidding. First ballot Hall of Famer, even that same draft with Eli and Phillip Rivers. I think Big Ben was the best out of the 3. All right, where else do we want to go in free agency? I mean, I'll kind of let you guys dictate where you go. Cyberpunk, are you still in the room? You let me know what you want to go for photos and whatnot. If you're still in the room, let me know. And then we can go there. The problem with Ridley, and I always keep it 100, because I cover all 32 teams as if each one were my own. The Titans are in a position right now where you're kind of looking up at everyone else in the division. It's like Houston got better, the Jags are good, the Colts are on the up and up with AR, you know what I mean? So it's like you're going to be sitting in 4th place, for a while, unless the Colts have injuries or Trevor Lawrence gets hurt or CJ Stroud. But you're going to be sitting in that 3rd or 4th slot for a while until things drastically improve. And then, again, coaching, OC, DC, offensive line, defense, there's going to be a lot of things that need to be retooled to get back to the point when you had Vrabel when he was younger, and then you had Tannehill balling as a top 12 quarterback, Henry, top 5 running back, A.J. Brown, top 7 wide receiver. So, it's going to take some time. Byard, still, one of the top safeties back then. So guys get older. You're going to have to retool, and it's going to take some time. But considering the Titans let AJ go, and now DeAndre Hopkins is going to be gone. I mean, they really didn't have any choice. If they're going to spend money, some people say, well, maybe they overpaid for Ridley. But you got to think, how many actual players have the Titans at the top of their board? Not many, let's be honest. They don't really have all the pieces in place right now to say, oh, we're going to win the division. We're going to win the AFC South next year. Oh, we're going to go to the playoffs. Oh, we're going to go to the wild card. Oh, we're going to the Super Bowl. I don't think any Titan fan is really honestly saying that right now. They know it's going to take a couple years to rebuild, and then also it's going to take some injuries, between the Houston Texans, Jacksonville Jaguars, Duval, as well as the Colts, to be able to move up a little bit. So it's going to take some time. But again, the money was quite a bit, for Ridley, and I'll throw Ridley up here. But then, again, everyone can complain, coulda, woulda, shoulda, but you have to understand the Titans aren't not the number one destination for a lot of, players. So if he's going to be able to get his bag there, then Titans fans are going to be happy. At least it gives them another weapon. And the Titans had arguably the best, they had one of the, decent wide receiving cores when they had A.J. Brown. They had a couple weapons there, but then now, if you go back to last year, arguably they had one of the worst, tight end wide receiving units. And then they ended up getting DeAndre Hopkins, and it got slightly better, with Levis, whether he's the long-term answer or not, you know what I mean? But still, they have one of the worst wide receiving cores in the whole entire NFL. So to be able to get a Ridley, if you're a Titan fan, you're liking that. It can't get any worse than what it already is. So it's all about perspective. On the outside, people are going to hate on it. Oh, Ridley could have went to a better team, but he would have gotten less money. So you have to realize sometimes the player is trying to get the bag. He's not trying to win a championship, at least at this moment. So. Yeah, you guys are rebuilding. Yes. Vikings. Yeah, when they just made a deal today to get themselves in the first round to get pick 23. So in my eyes, that means they got that pick to trade, right? So the Vikings can pick either Bo Nix, which more than likely will go to Denver, but maybe Michael Penix Jr. will be the Minnesota Vikings quarterback. So I've been saying that for like the last 6 months. If I'm looking at team fit, because you already got Justin Jefferson, right? You got Jordan Addison. You got TJ Hawkinson. The offensive line is dog shit for Minnesota, as well as the defense is dog shit. But if you can build the O-line, build the defense, Kirk Cousins is on Atlanta. So I think Michael Penix Jr. at 23, if he's there, that's where they're going to go. They just have to pray, that it goes Caleb Williams, unless Justin Fields stays and then someone else trades up. But let's say Caleb Williams, he goes off the board to the Bears, let's say, and Justin Fields gets traded and they get picks for him, right? Then Jaden Daniels goes to Washington. Drake May goes to New England, right? J.J. McCarthy goes to the Giants. And then Bo Nix goes to Denver. And then all of a sudden, Michael Penix Jr. ends up being the 6th quarterback selected, and he might end up being the best one out of them all. And it might be a blessing in disguise. So if Minnesota at 23 gets Michael Penix Jr. and he's a 6th quarterback off the board, don't be surprised if he ends up being the best one out of the group. Because a lot of those teams at the top have a lot of rebuilding to do. You know what I mean? And as far as Denver, they are nowhere near being a playoff team, but you understand the connection between, obviously with Sean Payton being able to mentor Bo Nix. And of course, they have a long ways to go on their O-line and their defense and retooling the running backs and wide receivers. But just the simple fact that Bo could succeed probably better with Denver than any other team, that's the comparison. But for Minnesota, I think Michael Penix Jr. now, since Kirk Cousins is gone, that is the pick that I would be picking there. And I think that he has a chance to be the best quarterback out of all of them. To me, he was the best one out of all of them last year, and he can make all the throws. The only knock on Michael Penix Jr. is his body. As long as he doesn't have a season-ending, ACL, MCL, PCL, that's going to be the only thing that holds his career back. You know, he's got the intelligence, he's got the arm, he's a lefty, so it'll be like an NFC Tua. You know, you got Tua on Miami, and people try to, you know, hate and talk shit about him, but he puts up top 10 statistics, and I think Michael Penix Jr., you're going to get people that will talk shit about him, but if he puts up top 10 numbers, you know, it might take a while because the O-line and the defense are dog shit, but once the O-line gets solidified, they get a better running back there because obviously Cook and Madison aren't good enough, and they're gone. So you got to figure out running back. You got to figure out O-line. You got to figure out defense. You already got the head coach, and you got Jetta, Addison, Hawkinson. I mean, name 3 better options than those 3 guys that are young. Jay Jetta could be like the next Jerry Rice, right? Addison is a god. We've seen like him like take that next step, and Hawkinson is already a top 4 tight end in the league. So, you know, you got like arguably a top 2, top 3 receiver in Jetta, top 2, 3, 4 tight end in Hawkinson, and then a top 30 wide receiver that has potential to be a top 15 receiver in Addison. That's looking pretty good. But again, if the offensive line, you know, can't get it done, then Penix isn't going to have time to go to those guys. So he'll get rocked. He'll throw bad pick sixes. He'll take sack lunches. But whoever goes there, hopefully it's not J.J. McCarthy. And if the Giants think McCarthy is the next Eli, go right ahead. Because, you know, Michael Penix Jr. on New York would be good too. You know, I think he would fit there, but he's a better fit, obviously, for Minnesota. That's just my personal feeling. So, see, Levis, I'm not sure is good enough. You know what I mean? You guys are going to stick with him. You know what I mean? But did you guys see enough from him? You know what I mean? If you're looking at a lot of the draft classes, it's like, I'm not sure. You know, it's like one more bad year out of Levis and you're just moving on. You know, so it's like, I don't know, man. Like, I've seen some good stuff out of him, but I've also seen some questionable stuff. But also, we have to realize coaching, head coach, Vrabel, get him out of there. OC needs to be better. And then they had no one to throw to besides DeAndre Hopkins. So we have to see Will Levis with better receivers, better tight end, better head coach, better OC, and then we can make a fair evaluation if Levis is going to be the guy for the next 5 to 10 years or if they give up on him next year. Now, if he had better, you know, pieces around him, you know, and he did shitty, you know, then it's like, okay, move on. You know what I mean? But 8 touchdowns, 4 picks, you know, is what he had. So it's not, you know, great, but it's not terrible, you know. But again, you have to realize they have the least to work with at wide receiver and tight end out of any team in the NFL. They are the thinnest at wide receiver and tight end, and then they got DeAndre Hopkins, and they got a little bit better, and now they got, you know, Ridley, but they still got a long ways to go. You know what I mean? So we have to take that in consideration for Blaze and their fan base. You know, because I think a lot of people, when they see Will Levis, they'll say, oh, he's trash. They don't even want to think about the depth chart on, oh, who do they have at running back? Who do they have at wide receiver? Now they don't have King Henry anymore either. So you can't rely on that. So it's gonna take a while. But as long as you understand that, then, you know, it's a due process. Go Ducks, baby. Hopefully we can do some things. Yeah, but I'm just trying to be fair about it. Like, now, do I believe in Will Levis being the starter long-term? No. But again, let me see what he can do, you know, with better pieces around him, and then you can make an evaluation if you want to bring in a guy to compete with him, if you want to draft a rookie, you know, or if you're going to bring in a free agent name, you know, to come in. But like for example, I'll give you an example. Will Levis or Jimmy Garoppolo? I'm going Will Levis, and I imagine a lot of you guys are too. So it's sometimes you can have a guy that has already been in the league, right? And you already know what he is, right? You already know what Jimmy is going to give you. He signed with the Rams, and he'll get more. Sean McVay will get more out of Jimmy than anybody else, just like he did with Baker, right? But it's like with Jimmy Garoppolo, he's a guy. You know what I mean? But I think that Titans fans, you know, would rather stick with Levis. So what does that tell you? You know, you can get a guy that might be able to give you better stats, but you already know his ceiling. He's not going to get any better. Levis is brand new. So we need to see him fail for 2, 3, 4 years before we stamp him and say, yep, he's just like Jimmy and all these other guys. He's like Kenny Pickett. He's just like all these other guys. He's not going to make it. So for me, you know, I'm kind of leaning more, you know, towards that he's not the guy, because now they have to get a replacement for Henry. even though they did bring in somebody with, to play with Spears. So, you did bring in somebody, but it's not King Henry, and then you got Ridley, but still there is, no more Kevin Byard, and at least you have Simmons still on the defense. So, it's going to take a while. And it also kind of hurts if you're a Titan fan, seeing how good the Colts and the Texans and the Jags have gotten in the last couple of years. So it's like you guys had your heyday with Tannehill, AJ Brown, and Henry, and now you're at the bottom. And now you're going to have to try to work your way up, So I think that's a fair breakdown and analysis. So. All right, where else do we want to go? You guys let me know where you want to go next with free agency. Any other names that dropped? I mean, I got all of them here. Cousins, Chris Jones, Josh Allen, Madubuike, Danielle Hunter, L'Jarius Sneed, Jalen Johnson, Spider Burns, Antoine Winfield Jr., T. Higgins, Christian Wilkins, Mike Evans, Baker Mayfield, Michael Pittman, Mike Onuahu, Saquon Barkley, Calvin Ridley, Leonard Williams. Let's throw up the Calvin Ridley up here for Blaze. You just got to make sure Calvin Ridley is not betting anymore. That's the last thing that you want. $4 years, $92 million. Definitely got his bag. And of course, he could have went somewhere else, but he wasn't going to get any more money from any other team besides that. So, and if they have money to spend, you might as well grab a guy. And remember, how hyped up he was. Sarah drafted Calvin Ridley thinking that he was going to be a top 10 receiver last season, when he went to the team that he was on. So, there was a lot of hype around him, but he just never really fully lived up to it. Sometimes you got to be careful, with a lot of these quote unquote experts when they start hyping up certain players. And that's a big reason why I did not draft Calvin Ridley last year on the Jaguars. I felt like it was more of a rental. I felt like Christian Kirk and some of the others were a better fit. I'll throw up a Pollard up there for you. Some people can be hating on it, but when you have 0 wide receivers to work with, Calvin Ridley is going to be like a godsend. You don't even give a shit if you gave him $100 million or $110 million. You don't give a shit. Just the fact that someone agreed to come to Tennessee, based on the situation that they're at, you have to be happy as a fan. It's the reality of it. I mean, they're not going to be able to attract some of the, superstars in the NFL, at least at this time period. Maybe in the near future, they will be able to attract more, but again, just being honest, and I think, even Blaze would agree, it's not going to be a number one destination, but again, sometimes you have to take with what you can get. And if you're going to reward a guy like that and, and end up giving him, maybe 12 more million that he deserves, maybe, 4 years, 80 million, even is kind of a lot. But if you want to just give him more and give him the bag, just do it. If you got the money to spend, because other than that, if you don't spend the money, then you're going to end up getting a wide receiver for similar money that's much worse. So at least it gives them someone that they can throw to. And then they get Tony Pollard, which was not used correctly by the Dallas Cowboys, who was the better running back to Zeke for the last 3 years. And then they finally had him as a starter and then didn't even use him correctly. So yeah, I know you're happy to have him. I just have to look at it from all perspectives. Finley in the building. Panthers in the building. What's good? All right, where else do we want to go? Cyberpunk, you have any other direction that you want to go? I'm gonna go Tyron Smith next, since we have Cowboys up. That was one that just happened about an hour and a half ago. And after we go Tyron Smith, if there's any other names and free agency that you want to go over, I got breakdowns of over 100. So I got the old team, the new team, and the money. So your boy's been working. Shout out to all the people watching on Twitter/X, as well as the people watching on YouTube. I love you and I appreciate you very, very much. Smash that like button, y'all. All right, Tyron Smith. All right, 8-time Pro Bowl offensive tackle Tyron Smith intends to sign with the New York Jets. Per sources, we'll see if it ends up coming true. The 33-year-old Smith is expected to go from protecting Dak to protecting Aaron Rodgers. What do we think about that? And I wonder what the money is going to look like. He won't make it for the entire season, but I think it's worth the risk. You just got to get off that turf in MetLife. We'll throw up Aaron up here. He'll be happy. What could have been for the Jets? You know, if Rodgers didn't get hurt in that first game, his numbers would have been great. Garrett Wilson's numbers would have been great. And who knows, maybe they would have made the AFC Championship game. You know, they would have made the playoffs if he was healthy for the whole year. Top 5 defense with a top 10 defense, or top 5 defense with a top 10 offense with Rodgers. Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, you know it. That's one thing that we got taken away from us last season. I really, really, really wanted to see this. And I know some people don't like Aaron Rodgers from his time in Green Bay, but sometimes when you go to a new team, you end up, being a little bit more likable. Some people are going to hate him to death, no matter what, just like Tom Brady going from the New England Patriots to the Tampa Bay Bucks. But I felt that once Brady went to the Bucks, people started to like him a little bit more, even maybe some of you in the room. And same thing with Aaron Rodgers and the Jets. I might have not liked him as much on the Packers, but sometimes when you're not wearing the same colors anymore and you're going to a new beginning, sometimes, you're going to get a little bit more on the likability factor. But also, too, there's going to be people that hate Aaron Rodgers no matter what fucking uniform he wears, and the same thing with Tom Brady. So going from the Cowboys to the Jets, you upgraded. If Aaron Rodgers can stay healthy, and hopefully he can, last 3/4 of the season. And we'll have to see what kind of money that we're going to get. All right, let's just do a quick recap. So obviously we did the Keenan Allen with the Bears, and we got Aaron Donald with the retirement. So we obviously went through the amazing stat line with him. And I'll go over it here one more time. And then we'll go down the photos of the people that we've gone over already. And if there's anybody new that you guys want to go over, you can let me know. You're posting while I'm working, Matt. I can't get to all your stuff with you're posting while I'm working, but I did. I got you. I always will support you. You support me, I support you, brother. All right, Aaron Donald, 10-year career, just like Barry Sanders. Just crazy. 2014, Defensive Rookie of the Year, Pro Bowl. 2015, First Team All-Pro, Pro Bowl. 2016, First Team All-Pro, Pro Bowl. And then when you get into year 4 through 7 as a MLB, NFL, or NBA player, or NHL, that's when you typically, quote-unquote, hit your prime if you're going to be a Hall of Famer. Years 4 through 7. In year 4, Defensive Player of the Year. First Team All-Pro, Pro Bowl. Year 5, Defensive Player of the Year, First Team All-Pro, Pro Bowl. 2019, First Team All-Pro, Pro Bowl. 2020, Defensive Player of the Year, First Team All-Pro, Pro Bowl. 2021, First Team All-Pro, Pro Bowl. 2022, just Pro Bowl. And then 2023, First Team All-Pro, Pro Bowl. So he literally had one down year where he hit a Pro Bowl and wasn't first team, and that's it. Like, everything is crazy. Defensive Rookie of the Year, Pro Bowl. 2022, Pro Bowl. But literally first team, All-Pro, Pro Bowl, or Defensive Player of the Year, 8 out of 10 years. The best defensive player in this generation, AD, Aaron Donald. Gonna miss you. Slick Nick Foles getting a big punch to the mouth. So we went that route. Had to give the love. And again, Barry Sanders playing 10 years and hitting Pro Bowls in all 10 years and retiring. Same thing, going out on top. Instead of playing 15 years and having 4 years of not making a Pro Bowl and your stats going down, it's always better for the legacy to go out on top. And he could have went out on top when he ended up retiring if he was going to do that after winning the Super Bowl. But to make it a clean 10 years, I'm glad that he came back. And then we went with Keenan Allen getting traded for a 4th rounder, which seems a low to some people, but that's just the NFL. And, the salary cap casualties, sometimes you end up being one of those, where you're going to make too much salary. And you are a first ballot Hall of Famer, just like Mike Evans. It's just crazy to think a guy as talented as him, you're only going to get a 4th in return. But that's the reality that we're in at this point. Fantastic career. First ballot Hall of Fame for both of these guys. Big facts. And then we talked about Devin White going to the Eagles in a 1-year, $7.5 million deal and a prove-it deal. Obviously, Justin Simmons still floating around in the market. Talking a little bit about Howie Roseman when we had Keela in the building. And then obviously being an Eagles fan because he was asking me about Devin White. Then we went over Fletcher Cox, Hall of Famer. Obviously going to be gone, retirement. Jason Kelce, retirement. So they're going to have to go on and do a little bit of a rebuild. And then for Megan, we went over some of the Seahawk players. Leonard Williams, Tyrell Dodson, Noah Fant. And then Cyberpunk came in. And then I ended up doing some photos for Odin Sun when he dropped a $25 dono to get the stream started to help me out with the cell phone bill, which was great. And now we're Chris Jones, and then L'Jarius Sneed, Drew Tranquil, and then obviously with a few others like Blaze joining the room, Calvin Ridley, Tony Pollard, and then obviously talking a little bit at Tyron Smith. And then if there's anyone else that you guys want to go over, you let me know. And I got a whole list. If there's anybody else that you guys want to go over, let me know. Vice President Rogers, yeah. But again, it seems like they just wanted to dump salary. Now, the person that suffers the most out of this is Justin Herbert, because he doesn't really have a whole lot to work with at the wide receivers or the running back position. You got rid of Eckler and you brought in Gus the Bus. Jesus Christ. You know what I mean? It's like I hope that they look for a running back in the draft and wide receivers in the draft. But when they drafted Quentin, from TCU, I didn't think that was a very good fit. And he didn't really play very good. He had a lot of drops. So now you have no Eckler, no Mike Williams, no Keenan Allen. Yes, all 3 of those guys got hurt pretty often, but you're not going to be able to replicate that production. Now you decided to keep Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack, and you still have an injury curse, but you have Harbaugh. So in Harbaugh we trust, and maybe having less big names on offense and building the defense in Harbaugh's vision. A baby, Baltimore, Raven, San Francisco 49er type of defense at some point, maybe in the cards, just like with Jim and John, trying to build something with structure, with the Ravens defense, with his brother and the Niner defense that he had with Patrick Willis and Navarro Bowman, something like that. But, we'll have to wait and see, but again, Keenan's probably not too happy about it. He'd rather catch passes out of, Justin Herbert, but, depending on if they keep Justin Fields or trade for Caleb, we'll have to wait and see. I mean, at this point, I think that I would keep Justin Fields, not draft Caleb Williams, and then, just trade the pick and then try to get as much of a king's ransom and then pick the best offensive linemen and defensive players you can in the draft with all the compensation that you're getting. Fuck Maserati Marv and all these other guys and Caleb Williams. Go for Joe Alt, go for Jackson Powers, go for all the top dogs on the O-line. And if you end up doing that, that's going to equate to more wins than just picking Caleb Williams, trading Justin Fields away, and drafting Maserati Marv. Because if you end up doing that strategy, you're going to be sitting in 4th place just like you are right now, in my opinion. So do I think you can win a Super Bowl with Justin Fields? Not really. But I think that there's so many question marks with Caleb, with playing against better teams, completion percentage, QBR, touchdown to interception ratio when you play against better talent. There's a lot of question marks there. So if you have question marks, you already have question marks with Justin Fields, you might as well just keep him and then get picks for Caleb, because Caleb could pan out, but he could be a bust. Same thing with Drake May. Same thing with Jaden Daniels. Same thing with J.J. McCarthy. Same thing with Bo Nix. Same thing with Michael Penix Jr. But I feel that if Bo Nix and Michael Penix Jr. are like the safest picks in the draft at quarterback, and they might get picked 5th and 6th, what does that tell you about the first 4? Stay away. It may not work out, J.J. McCarthy, does anyone really believe in J.J. McCarthy?
Maybe the Giants do, but a majority of us don't believe. Drake May, you have some skill set to make it, but not everyone is convinced, especially from your stats last year. A lot of games with 2 picks and 2 touchdowns. You didn't have Josh Downs because he went to the Colts. But still, even though you were on North Carolina, we expected more on your stat line, and you kind of were shitty last year. You got an NFL body, but no one wants to pick someone that had a shitty year in their last year in college, and then that's going to be your franchise guy. I don't know. Jaden Daniels. I saw a lot of good things out of Jaden Daniels, and Jaden Daniels could be better than Caleb, depending on what team he goes to, the Giants or Washington. But it's really going to come down to coaching and supporting cast. And then with Caleb, he's got a little bit of a diva, thing to him. I don't care about the painted fingernails as much, but I feel like up here, mentally, I'm not sure if he's got it. Is he going to be able to go through the ups and the downs? I think like Jaden Daniels, Drake May, Michael Penix Jr., and Bo Nix are mentally stronger up here. And I feel like JJ McCarthy and Caleb are, they're kind of wishy-washy. I feel that emotions are going to be kind of going up and down. And, and if you, in your head, if you're Caleb and you think you're going to be Patrick Mahomes, you're already failed. You know what I mean? It's like you might be Patrick Mahomes 2.0 or 3.0, but why would you want that moniker? You just want to be Caleb Williams. You know what I mean? And so Caleb could end up being a top 10 quarterback. Caleb could end up being, maybe number 15 or number 16, kind of sitting where like Justin Fields is at. It's really going to come down to supporting cast, head coach, OC, DC, offensive line, running backs, wide receivers. It's the whole collective unit. You know what I mean? But for as many quarterbacks that could be drafted in the first round, 6, I have never seen so many question marks on such elite talent than this year. So if you have question marks, that usually is a sign of staying away. Just saying. I mean, you didn't have as many question marks with AR, CJ, and Bryce. And right now with Bryce and his height, it's a very big concern. AR and, running blindly and getting injured, concern. And then obviously the only one that truly panned out so far is CJ Stroud. But CJ, is like trying to break the mold and is showing that, hey, Ohio State quarterbacks can be better than Justin Fields. And they finally maybe got the one guy that they can be proud of, Fields and CJ Stroud. And then obviously we got Herbert and now Bo Nix. And so we're trying to buck the trend that Buckeyes and Ducks can actually develop quarterbacks, but it also depends on where you go, and it also helped that, you had a great head coach, you had Nico Collins, you had Will Anderson, you had everything kind of going for you on top of being in a shitty division, and then AR getting hurt and all those other, guys getting hurt as well. And then, CJ has a skill set to not only be top 10 quarterback, but one day he might end up being top 5 or maybe being as good as top 3. I'm not sure if you can say that for AR or Bryce Young. We're going to have to wait and see. Like right now, Bryce is going to be, floating, somewhere between 15 and 25. And for Panther fans, they're hoping that he can be in the top 16 sooner than later. AR has got a body and a skill set of a top 12 quarterback in this league right next to CJ Stroud. But if you continue to get hurt, you're hurting your team and your franchise, and you're not doing your team any good on the sideline holding a clipboard. So we have to understand that. I like AR's arm. I like AR as a man. I like AR off the field. I like AR as a leader. But if he keeps running reckless, he's going to end up injuring himself and shortening his career. And that is a big, big thing. You don't want a guy like that to go to waste. So that's kind of my feel of it. So. Yeah, but also too, hindsight is 20/20. And if Bryce put up numbers like CJ did, and CJ put up Bryce numbers, like I said, you have to understand if the Panthers are the worst team in football, they weren't just going to be able to pick Bryce and turn it around. You know what I mean? And you have to look at all the teams between the Texans, and the Colts and the Panthers, right? If you drafted CJ Stroud number 1, right? Are we talking about CJ Stroud today? Probably not. You know what I mean? Would he have made more big plays than Bryce did this year? Yes, but we're probably not talking about CJ as being this dominant player like he was. And the big reason is because he had better supporting cast to work with in coaching. If you don't got a good owner and you don't got a good GM, you don't got a good head coach, you don't got good supporting cast, you don't got a good O-line, you don't got a good defense, I don't care who you are, you're not going to succeed. So yeah, you would have been able to have a little bit better numbers, with CJ or AR on the Panthers, but we're still not talking about those guys like we're talking about CJ today, on the Texans. We have to be fair. The Panthers are at the bottom for a reason. It's going to take time to be able to get the right, personnel and front office in place. And if you don't get the right guys in the front office, then the draft picks are going to be meaningless. The free agents are going to be meaningless. You're only going to get so much. Hell, their best receiver was Adam Thielen. And even though he overachieved for 3/4 of the season, towards the end of the year, he started to fall off. You need better players than fucking Miles Sanders and Adam Thielen. I mean, do you really think C.J. Stroud and Adam Thielen and Miles Sanders were going to take the team to the playoffs? Fuck no. And if anyone, should be able to understand and be a little bit more understanding, it's you, Blaze. You're a Titans fan. You're at the bottom of the barrel. You're right there. So you're going to be in the same type of position where you're going to be in 4th place looking up, and you may be looking up for a long time. And that's not me talking shit. That's just me being honest. You have to understand where every team is going to be at a different level. But if you don't have the right, ownership and the right management in place, I mean, imagine like all the jobs that you have had in your life where you've liked, the people that you work with. The pay may have not been the greatest, but, maybe it was just good enough to stay because the management was horrible. You had a horrible owner, horrible bosses, horrible managers, and normally you would have quit, but you stayed, because the money was just good enough, but the friends that you had there, were good enough to stay, and like I said, if you got a better, management around you, you're going to get better results, like think about Dan Campbell and the Lions. You don't think those players are going to run through a wall? And some of those players early on, they weren't on board with his message. But then you just had to keep going and keep believing, and then get Jahmyr Gibbs, right? Then get David Montgomery in free agency, and then get Campbell, and and then have Amon-Ra there doing the Amon-Ra thing, and Jared Goff, and just keep adding pieces and pieces. Now the Detroit Lions look like they're one of the top 8 teams in the NFL, and they're going to be very, very good in the next 5 years. And there's a good chance that they might end up making a Super Bowl or another NFC Championship game. So sometimes you got to be able to have the right guy in place, and if you don't got the right head coach, everything trickles down to the players. Every mock draft has McCarthy going over those two. But that's okay. Because honestly, Penix and Nix might be the only ones that pan out of the draft. Caleb may or may not pan out. Drake may or may not pan out. Jaden Daniels may or may not pan out. And I think the only one that I would be shocked that pans out is McCarthy. I think he's the worst out of all of them. But if he gets in the right system, he might be able to, hang around a little bit longer than we anticipate. But I don't see any Eli Manning characteristics out of him. They were a run first, defensive first type of team. So, I mean, if the Giants want to pick him, go right ahead. But I think that they would be better off with a Jaden Daniels in New York for the Giants and J.J. McCarthy. And again, Minnesota Viking fans are hoping that J.J. McCarthy gets picked by the Giants. That would mean that, Michael Penix Jr. will fall into their lap after the trade at number 23. And I think that would be the best fit. So I like, just based on what I see, I think Penix and Nix have the best chance to pan out the quickest if they can put the right pieces in place. You know what I mean? Because if you're going to the Bears, depending on who you are and what they do, now it looks like it's going to be pretty good with the Keenan Allen addition. But prior to getting Keenan Allen, it was like, I don't know if I would really want to go there because management isn't very good, right? New England, no one wants to go there. Washington, I feel that Washington has like a lot of athletes, but they're like dysfunctional family. You know what I mean? So it's like you have all these athletes at quarterback, running back, wide receiver, O-line. You dumped your D-line, which was one of the best in the NFL, but you got rid of Chase Young and a few others like Payne. So I feel like you got a lot of athletic bodies, and they can end up winning a division or getting second place once every 5 to 6 years, but they're so fucking dysfunctional. It's going to take a lot at the top to be able to trickle down. At least they got rid of Dan Snyder to start it, but I think Jaden Daniels in Washington or New York might be able to work, but it's going to take more than just Jaden Daniels. Drake May, I could see New England drafting him and being better than Bailey Zappi or Mac Jones, but not being great, just being like a top 16 quarterback. So I guess it just depends on what you're looking for. Are you looking for a starter, or are you looking for a franchise quarterback, top 10 or top 12? And I'm not sure if any of the quarterbacks in this draft are going to be top 12. And that's saying something. And I break down film, just as much as a scout in the NFL. I mean, all I do when I'm not streaming is reading and watching film. So, so out of the 6 guys, Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May, JJ McCarthy, Bo Nix, Michael Penix Jr. In reality, you're going to get one that pans out to be a top 10, top 12 quarterback. You're going to get one that's going to show flashes, like Justin Fields. That it's almost there, but it needs help. Then you're going to get 2 guys that are going to fail, and then you're going to get 2 guys that aren't going to succeed until they go to their next team. That's how more than likely that's what's going to happen. One that pans out, top 10, top 12. One that's top 16 like a Justin Fields. 2 that fail, and 2 that look like they're going to fail, but may have to go to another team and might have a rebirth in their career. That's kind of how I feel it's going to go. But if you think 5 out of the 6 guys are going to pan out, you'll find out. That's what they were saying about Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Mac Jones, Trey Lance, right? All the people thought, that it looks so good. And then as a couple years pass, you go back and look at those drafts, or even the Kenny Pickett draft, and none of those guys are on the fucking team anymore. Malik, Pickett. So it shows you can get excited for what you see now, but to be able to get legends and GOATs, Ben Roethlisberger's, don't grow on trees. It just doesn't work like that. So. Exactly. Bryce Young, if he had Tank Dell, Nico, Dalton Schultz, if he had all those guys, yeah, he would have been better, but his stats wouldn't have been as good as CJ Stroud's. CJ Stroud's stats would have been better, and they were better. You know what I'm saying? Like Bryce would have been better, on the Texans there. His numbers would have been better, but I think that if you're looking at talent level, it's like CJ, AR, Bryce. And again, if you're not going to be tall, you better be an expert at the RPO and play action in bootleg. And Bryce isn't, because you got to be able to see over the line. And again, if you can't see over the line, you got to have escapability. And if you don't have escapability, then ultimately what you get is Bryce Young. So, and I'm not going to fully give up on Bryce Young just yet, because they don't have all the pieces, just like Will Levis doesn't have all the pieces yet. It's easy to criticize when the team is in last place and they're dog shit and they're bad. But why are they bad? Do they have a bad owner? Do they have a bad head coach? Do they have a bad OC? Do they have a bad DC? Do they have bad receivers? Do they have bad running backs? And if the answer is yes, well, no shit, they're bad. You have to look at it like that. So that would be big. And sometimes it's going to take that second or third team to be able to find yourself, and that's why I say, you're going to have one that pans out, one that's going to be like Justin Fields, like top 16 flashes, but also fuck ups. But you see potential enough where you're like, you know what? I think a majority of fans in the NFL, if you ask them, would you take Justin Fields on your team as a starter or a backup? I would think that, 20 out of 32 teams would say yes. I think 24 out of 32, 3/4 of the teams would say, yeah, I would either take him or I would take him as my backup, because there's just like some kind of potential there. He's not great, but he's not dog shit either. He showed flashes, and then you're going to have 2 that fail. I don't know if that's going to be JJ McCarthy and Drake May, or Jaden Daniels and Drake May, probably Drake May and JJ McCarthy, and then you're going to have 2 that, may have to wait till they get to their second or third team, which may be Jaden Daniels and, Michael Penix Jr. or Bo Nix. So we'll have to wait and see. Yeah. And for me, because like I follow O-line, D-line, defense coaching, play calling, and I know this may sound crazy to some people, but I would rather have an elite owner, elite GM, elite head coach, right? All those elite OC, elite DC, right? Elite offensive line, and then have a good defense and have average quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end. Because if you have average quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end, but you have elite everything else, what do you think is going to happen? All those guys that are below average or average are going to turn into good because of the people that are around them that are mentoring them. So keep that in mind. It's not just having elite wide receiver, elite running back, elite tight end, and all of a sudden you're going to win a Super Bowl. Look at Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and Andy Reid when they played the Buccaneers in the Super Bowl. You had literally the best head coach, the best quarterback, the best tight end, and they couldn't even get one touchdown on the Buccaneers in the Super Bowl. Not even one. So, it shows you, I think a lot of people are too enamored and they're falling in love with quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends too much. And you have to realize those are the Lambos and the Ferraris, but if you don't have the gasoline, to make the cars go, which is obviously the offensive line, the OC, the DC, the head coach, those other positions, you're not going anywhere. You have to keep that in mind. O-line, D-line, defense, coaching, play calling, that's what matters. And having good people up in the management process. Big facts. All right, where else do we want to go? People are hating, acting like he's not good. If you watched Iowa State, they beat the brakes off the Ducks in the bowl game. And again, he was Mr. Irrelevant. But there's certain teams, like the San Francisco 49ers, that have proven they can put anybody at running back or quarterback, and they're going to succeed. Why? Because of the owner, because of the GM, John Lynch, because of Shanahan, because of the O-line, with being one of the best in the NFL, D-line, defense. All of that is already there, and then you're able to elevate the play out of the running backs, and then they ended up getting CMC. But the difference is if you want to end up winning a Super Bowl, they realize they have to get someone better than who they had at running back. You had the Raheem Mosterts, and you had all these guys that were like pretty good, but not good enough. So now you can trade it for McCaffrey. So ultimately for the Niners, if you're going to play the Chiefs, you're going to have a top 5 quarterback like a Jalen Hurts, right? If you don't play the Chiefs and you play like the Ravens, which we were thinking we were going to get that Super Bowl, then I think the Niners could have won with Brock Purdy. I just feel like, you're going to need a Joe Montana, Steve Young quarterback on the Niners to be able to win it all. You know what I mean? But if you don't have that, then you just have to pray that you don't play the Chiefs, because it seems like every time you play them, you can't beat them. You know what I mean? But Purdy is a lot better than people want to give credit for. Does he have the benefit of having a great GM, a great head coach, a great play caller, a great offensive line, great running back, great receivers, great tight end? Yes, but also too, it's the throws, it's the placement, it's the big third down stuff that he had to make on his own that haters weren't giving him credit for. It's like, yeah, the guys are making the catches, but who's getting the fucking ball there? It's not magically just going in the air out of the center's ass, magically into George Kittle's hands for a touchdown. Someone has to throw it to him. So, I think, in that retrospect, people, sometimes think they know football, but there's a lot of people, everyone thinks they're an expert at football, but clearly there's a lot of people out there that think they know football. They don't know shit. They think they're, an expert, but they're clearly not. There's people that actually watch the games, that play fantasy, that watch, 6 full games every week. And also it's not just watching the games, it's understanding what to look for, because you could get a lot of people that watch games, but people see different things. Like for me, I'm a defensive oriented guy, so I can watch the D line and the O line. I don't have to watch the football. I can watch the linebackers and I can watch the O line and D line move, and then move my eyes to the center, the football, the quarterback, the running back, the wide receiver. But 99% of people, when they watch football, they watch the offense. They watch the center and what movement is there. Next time you watch a football game, watch it from the O-line or D-line or defensive perspective, and it's a whole nother, game. You start to really realize what you're seeing out there, like who's making the adjustments, who is a dog, who's going sideline to sideline, and Brock Purdy, 4,280 yards, 31 TDs, 11 picks. Think about how many quarterbacks that, even if they had that Niner, supporting cast, that wouldn't have been able to put up numbers like that. Even with those guys around you, there's a lot of guys in the NFL that couldn't put up 31 and 11, let alone being Mr. fucking irrelevant, being the last pick in the NFL draft. but it shows you it's about coaching up. You have to be able to be in a position to coach up. And if you realize what's important, O-line, D-line, defense, coaching, play calling, the Niners check off all those boxes. They just have to get, a quarterback, in a position to ultimately not play Patrick Mahomes, and then you win a Super Bowl. So that's ultimately what's going to happen. Either, they get to the Super Bowl and don't play Patrick Mahomes, or they do play Patrick Mahomes and they find a way to actually get it done. Yeah. And then when you look at like Kaepernick and Jimmy G, it's like you were able to get to the big game, with those guys, but again, when you get to a Super Bowl, you can't get as cute and things get slowed down a little bit, and every pass is more magnified. Every run is more magnified, and so you also have to have a good game plan. So not only is it Brock Purdy, and as much as I love Kyle Shanahan, and I think he's one of the brightest minds out there with Sean McVay, as far as young coaches, Kyle Shanahan gets out-coached, and he's one of my favorites. So it kind of, hurts me to say this, but I have to keep it 100. I can't just be like, Kyle Shanahan is God and not mention his faults. Kyle Shanahan is terrible in the fourth quarter and overtime. He always gets out-coached in that quarter, and that's the most important quarter to be good at. You can be good in the first quarter. You can be good in the second quarter. You can be good in the third quarter. But for whatever reason, when the fourth quarter play calling comes on that sheet, he just fucking nuts up, and he just is terrible, but that's also a credit to the other coach and the other team and the defense to put him in a bad position to get out coached. So you have to give credit to the opposing team, the Chiefs and the defensive coordinator, Spags, Chris Jones, L'Jarius Sneed, Trent McDuffie, all those guys, So you have to take that in consideration too. If Kyle Shanahan was better, in that quarter, they would have already had a Super Bowl by now. Big facts. Would have had one in Atlanta, being up 28-3 against, Tom Brady, and then maybe another one. But again, you have to understand what you need to be able to climb the pinnacle. I don't think they necessarily need to try harder. They just need to have a better game plan for the fourth quarter and overtime. Because that's the only quarter that Kyle Shanahan has ever gotten dominated. He never gets dominated in anything besides, NFC championship game or Super Bowl fourth quarters. Like, it's mostly Super Bowl fourth quarters where, you're just gets outcoached and outplayed. Yeah, it's just people hating. People just love to hate. Yeah, we have to see, but one thing we know for sure, that he's got more upside, at least from what we've seen, than Bryce Young. He may not be CJ Stroud, but he's got to build like a linebacker, like a Cam Newton. So you have to understand, you can't compare, his height and his weight and his game, just to other guys that are shorter. So I feel that with AR, he does have the ability to succeed, but he just has to be able to know when to slide, take a sack, throw the ball away. Otherwise his career is going to get shortened. But as far as arm strength, making the NFL throws and being able to take his game to the next level, you also have to realize they didn't really have a whole lot to work with at wide receiver and tight end, the Colts, right? So it's like you had, Jonathan Taylor, and they had that whole debacle of, it's like, oh, I'm not going to play for you. I'm going to play. I'm not going to play. Trade me. You know what I mean? Offensive line also hasn't been as good as it was in years past with Quentin Nelson. So you have to think of it. It's many things. It's a new coach, so it's a new scheme, right? You got an offensive line that needs to be retooled. That was good, but kind of has been up and down. Right? Wide receivers, tight ends need to be better. We've seen some pieces come in like Downs where you're seeing flashes, and Pittman has gotten better, right? So they still need another wide receiver, another tight end, more offensive line, and more defense. But he may not be CJ Stroud yet, right? But if there is someone that could, take the Colts to the playoffs, it's the best quarterback the Colts have had since Andrew Luck, as far as potential. So, That might be your opinion that he might not be able to do it even when healthy. But if they have the right guys in place at head coach, which they do, and if they have the offensive line get boosted, and then they can help AR with defense, because obviously the O-line and the defense, we need to have those get boosted and have them continue to get better and better. There is a chance where Anthony could be a top 10, top 12 quarterback. But also if he keeps continuously getting hurt, AR could be like a top 16 guy where, he'll just be kind of in the middle like a Justin Fields where you see good, but you also see, mistakes. So, yeah. You got to be able to look at all aspects of the game, and you can't really judge someone after one season, and it wasn't even a full season. It takes, not every college player is going to be Hall of Famer or All Pro or Pro Bowl right out of the gates. Some guys, it takes a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. Like look at Baker Mayfield. Played good in college, but went to the wrong team with the Browns. But even with that being said, got them their first playoff win in a bajillion years, right? And then they gave up on him. Then he ended up, traveling around. Sean McVay got him coached up, looked good for a couple games with the Rams. And now with Tampa Bay, he's found a home. So, sometimes you have to find the right coach and the right fit. It's just like working at a job. If you got a shitty owner and shitty managers, are you going to work as hard? Hell no. You're going to give bare minimum. And if you actually have a owner and a manager that you like, what are you going to do? If they ask you to stay late, you might be like, fuck you. No, I will. I'll stay late for you because I like you. So it's all about, at the top. And what you have at the top will trickle down to the bottom. So. But also, too, remember, Cam Newton and AR, they're big guys. So they're more like, throwers of the football instead of passers. They kind of shot put the football sometimes to areas, instead of actually being a traditional smaller quarterback, that's zipping the ball in there like a Drew Brees. It's a different type of guy. So if you're going to be successful with a guy like that, you can run the RPOs, you can run the over-the-top dives, the tush pushes, when you get into the end zone like Cam did. But really what's going to define AR as a player is what he does from the 20 to the 20. Not necessarily what he does in the red zone, because we already know he can use his legs, but we have to be able to see if he's going to learn from his mistakes and to be able to develop as a player. But I got a hell of a lot more confidence in AR than Bryce right now. But again, with Bryce, I'm not fully giving up on him just yet. And again, if the Panthers give up on Bryce, right, in the next couple years, and then all of a sudden Bryce ends up on the Niners and starts balling, you are a product of who you are around, right? It's like when you have friends. If you got a bunch of friends that are partying and doing a lot of shit, drinking and doing a bunch of bad shit, you become a product of your friend. If you stay away from those people, maybe your dreams and your goals can come true when you get away from those bad people. They may be your friends, but if they're dragging you into a wrong direction, you're only going to be able to get the best of yourself when you're supported around the best people that have your best interest. Not every person is going to be in an ideal situation. And especially if you get drafted at the top of the board, the reason you got drafted at the top of the board is because those teams suck ass. They're at the bottom of the barrel for a reason. So, Judah in the building. So that's my take on that. But I have more confidence in AR actually panning out than him not panning out. But it just depends. Is he going to be ranked 12th through 16 like Justin Fields? Or can he take the next step, and then can he get to be a top 10 quarterback with CJ? That's a big question. And it also, it depends with the coaching, the offensive line, the draft picks, the free agent, health, Jonathan Taylor, the defense. It's not going to just be one guy that's going to be able to turn shit around for AR. It's going to be a group effort, so keep that in mind. How are you, Judah? I got one of my musician friends that invited me to a concert. Hold on. All right, where do we want to go next? All right, we're 2 hours and 33 minutes in. So I was thinking, we can go into the 3-hour mark and then we can call it a day. Oh, nice. Which ones have you been watching? There's been some good ones too. They had the Buff Bagwell one, and all of the Dark Side of the Rings and anything wrestling related is awesome. They do such a great job on those. And like I said, I need to go back and start cycling through. But anytime one of them is on, I usually get a shitload of messages from my friends watching it. With like Buff Bagwell actually being a male stripper before he was a wrestler. And then obviously going through drinking and addiction and a lot of things, post his wrestling career and whatnot. So you're on the first one, Randy and Elizabeth, the Macho Man. So we've actually gone down many topics already here. And shout out to Odin's Son with a $25 dono, as well as Cyberpunk with a $300 dono to help me out with my cell phone and my vet bill that I'm going to get when I take Paisley to get her shots. What a godsend. So we went over Aaron Donald and all his accomplishments, and then obviously I put Keenan Allen on there because that was the big news from yesterday with the Bears. My thumbnail skills are on point. And then I went over some photos that I really enjoy of Aaron Donald. Then obviously we went with the Keenan Allen, traded for a 4th rounder. Then Aquila came in as an Eagle fan, donated $5 and asked me about Devin White, and I gave my true opinion. Was good in the first 3 years, and there was a little bit of a drop-off last year. So I would say first 3 years, pretty good. 4th year, decent. 5th year, a little bit of a drop-off and got benched, in the last month. And it was the only player that was a notable name that we weren't willing to bring back. We literally brought everybody back. Jason Licht for president, my guy. I mean, they talk about the Texans and all these teams that had a great free agency. We might have not assigned a bunch of guys, but what we did do is something that most teams can't. We literally brought everybody back. Antoine Winfield Jr., franchise tag, check. Baker Mayfield, check. Mike Evans, check. Levante David, check. And we even got Jordan Whitehead to come back from the Jets. Bing, 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 bing. So even though I might not be a Super Bowl contender and I might be a Super Bowl pretender, we should still be at the top for the NFC South. And we'll compete with the Falcons and Saints for that top spot. I am sad to see him go. Number one reason is because I spent $350 on jerseys between Devin White, the red sewn jersey that you see, and a white one when he was a rookie and in his 2nd year. So I was, normally when I buy a sewn jersey, I assume he's going to be there at least for 2 contracts, at least 8 years, and he only made it 5. So it is what it is, but I'm not going to burn it, and I'll still rep the Buccaneer Devin White jersey. Then we went over Justin Simmons on how come he hasn't been signed just yet, because he's trying to get, in some insane number, 20, 30 million a year, I would assume. So he's trying to get the bag, trying to get a 3-year deal for like 90 million, but he might have to settle for a 1-year deal for like, 20 to 25. But I assume 3-year deal is what he's going to want. And he's probably wanting 3 years, 100 million, 3 years, 90 million, but he may have to settle for 3 years, 80 to 85 million. And then, we'll see what the guaranteed money looks like. We talked about Howie Roseman, who in this photo looks like a half Carson Wentz, half Drew Brees. If they both had a baby, I guess that's what Howie looks like. But I thought Howie's hair looked more darker like this, but apparently that's what his natural hair color looks like. Little Carson Wentz, Drew Brees clone. And then we went over Aquila's Eagles, Fletcher Cox, retirement. Jason Kelce, retirement. First ballot Hall of Famers for both. Well, definitely for Jason Kelce. Fletcher Cox, he might not be first ballot, but he'll get in, more than likely. One of my favorite centers of all time, Jason Kelce, is because of his athleticism. He can pull. Go back and watch Jason Kelce highlights and you'll be amazed. I've never seen a guy so athletic, and he's not the biggest center, and that's why he was so good. He was big, but he wasn't fat. He was a guy that actually could pull both directions, and he could get to the 2nd and 3rd level. Love him. Love him. I love you too, O-Dog. I appreciate that. And then Megan was in the room with Reflect, so we were going over Leonard Williams, Tyrell Dodson, sleeper signing, Noah Fant. And then Cyberpunk came in. $300 dono, held it down to help me pay bills, which is so needed because, if he didn't do that, then that would mean that I would have to postpone her vet, visit until April. And then obviously, you don't want your cell phone to get shut off. And, who knows when that's going to be. It's probably going to, if I didn't end up getting that, it might have gotten shut off tomorrow. So that helps. And then we obviously went over Drew Tranquil, signing L'Jarius Sneed with the franchise tag. Colts trying to get him, but obviously he should stay. That would be the smart thing to do, to have him stay and have him try to stay there and restructure a deal, like a 4-year deal after this year. Or he goes to a new team after this year. And then Chris Jones. And then we went over Tony Pollard for Blaze and Calvin Ridley. And then Tyron Smith was the big notable one within the last 2 hours, going to the Jets, but the details have not emerged just yet. And Vice President Aaron Rodgers is happy. So it's been a good stream so far, for sure. A fantastic stream. Toughest thing about being a head coach. Building the right coaching staff is one part of it, but I think also, too, it's discipline. I think discipline is the hardest thing to do in life. There's a lot of decisions that you have to make. It's like with me, it's like, read, articles for every team for 2 hours, or go play video games. Watch True Blood or Deadwood or King of the Hill, or watch film for 2 hours. Like, you have decisions to make on what you want to do. And, with a lot of these coaches, it's about who puts in more time in the film room, who puts in more time. And a lot of times, based off the results at the end of the season, you can tell what coaching staffs are working the hardest. So I think it's discipline, building the right coaching staff, and obviously understanding of the game, and also understanding that there's two different types of coaches. Players coach, and then there's guys that are going to be disciplined guys. And then there's going to be guys that are going to be 50-50. 50-50 discipline, 50-50, players coach. So it's like, you could be a players coach like Pete Carroll, and that can work for some. And other coaches are going to be like Jim Harbaugh, where you're going to be kind of a hard ass and you're going to be a yeller. But as long as they understand that you love them and I love you, you get chewed out. But at the end of the day, he's asking about your wife and your kids, and that it's not just being an asshole towards you. He's wanting the best for you, as long as he's not, doing verbal abuse or mental abuse or physical abuse, So there's many, many things, but you definitely got one of them. Because you want to be able to have people that you can communicate with, and you have to have trust. You have to be able to find someone that thinks like you, and you have to find those people, which is going to be very difficult as a head coach or as an OC or a DC. And you have that, that triangle, right? You got to have the head coach, but you got to have a good OC and DC to be successful as well. Yeah, a lot of people ended up going that way. Still one of my favorites, Macho Man and Elizabeth. That's a good question. Once you end up getting a headset, a computer, a job, and money, and then you hop on with me, then I'll give you a breakdown on how good I think you are. How much improvement you need on the microphone. And I already know, I feel that you have a certain type of knowledge and something that you could provide to people on social media. And like I said, I'm always willing, to be able to give inspiration to help people, find their lane, and you may not see the big picture, yourself. But if I can kind of show you the path or the light at the end of the tunnel, I'm not going to steer anybody wrong, So as far as type of coach, or evaluator, we'll have to be able to do streams together. And then once you're pointing out the routes and we're calling a game together, then people can really understand what knowledge you have as a young man. There's not going to be a lot of people that are 20, 21, 22 that are going to have the knowledge unless they played, which you did. And it doesn't matter if you played Pop Warner, if you played junior high or only high school and you didn't play junior college or college ball. Like for me, I didn't play college ball or the NFL, but that doesn't mean that I don't know anything. It's like I feel that I know just as much as a lot of these other people that are on planet Earth that are covering the sport. And, if people like John Madden, rest in peace, EA Sports, Good Morning Football, Peter Schrager, and all these other famous people watch me and steal my material, obviously I'm doing something right. So I think like everyone has got something to offer, based off their teams, but again, there's a reason why I'm at the level that I'm at, and it's not, just popularity, because it's, not being biased, not having that bullshit, calling it how I see it. And there's not really another channel I feel that's like that's out there that really truly spits it the way that I do, and I feel a lot of the people that we have that are a part of the channel, are like that or can see that vision as well. There are so many biased people that are out there. It's kind of sickening, you know what I mean? Because it's like, if you want to have a biased take, turn on any sports channel, turn on any podcast. It's nothing new. If you want to hear people argue over some topic that's stupid, if you want to waste 2 hours doing that, great. But I think there's a lot of us that really truly want to know the truth. Regardless of what team that we root for, we want to have someone that can be like an ambassador that can say, regardless of, I'm a Buck fan, can I give a proper, fair Saints, Panthers, Falcons, breakdown without, having the hate for those teams in my heart because I'm a Bucks fan. And again, I treat every team as if they were my own. I do film study, as every team as my own, articles as every team as my own. Do you really think I would be able to come up with so many ESP moments and predictions being correct if I didn't put in all this work? It wouldn't happen. I have to watch the film. I have to look for tendencies. I have to look for certain things. And then ultimately I have to think like a head coach. I put myself in the shoes of the offensive coordinator, the defensive coordinator, or head coach. And then I try to think, okay, if I am this, guy, what would I do? What would I do based on what I've seen on film in previous games? And then, I'll say something or I'll get a vision. We'll say it on the channel. And then I'm not going to be right all the time. But if you go back and check the receipts, I guarantee I was probably more right than most of your other channels that were out there. And we've even had, moments where even before the play happened, Tony Romo ain't the only one that can come up with predictions. And Tony Romo was a quarterback in the NFL. So he knows formations. He knows audibles. He knows placement. He knows where every single player is supposed to be lined up on the field because he played in the NFL. I did not. I have to do other things to try to catch up to Tony Romo, on that level. So, but again, if you put in that work, I don't mind doing streams with other people. And obviously we don't have anybody else that loves the Ducks as much as me besides you. So if I'm doing a Duck game and you end up getting all those things lined up, then we can end up, doing a stream and doing kind of a split screen that I've done with me and Rooftop and a few of you in the room as well. So, all right, we got 15 minutes to go. Let me know what you guys want to do for photos. So, yeah. And of course, people have to realize on other channels, people might talk shit. People might troll. But here, I am never going to, just talk shit, as a normal fan. If I say something that, might be considered harsh and people are taking offense to what I'm saying towards their player, I'm speaking true facts. It's never just to be insulting or mean. And the people that take it personal are the people that have a bias towards that team or towards that player. But again, if you notice the way that I talk about Tampa and Seattle Mariners, Seattle Kraken, the Blazers, the Oregon Ducks, it's not like I'm shoving down that content down your guys' throat saying that those are the best teams on planet Earth and everyone else sucks. When the team is good, you're going to hear it. When the team is bad, I'm going to fucking rip into them. I'm going to keep it as fair as if any team was mine. So I have no reason to be like everyone else and troll and be mean. But I have to be fair. And sometimes with me being fair and calling it how I see it is going to, hurt some people's feelings. But at the end of the day, if you realize that I'm not in the business of hurting feelings, I'm in the business of educating and trying to get people to see my vision. And that way you can enjoy the game as a whole and not just your favorite players and your favorite team. You can enjoy it as the NFL as a whole, college football as a whole, understanding greatness exists everywhere, including you guys. Everyone's got a lane that they are great at something. You just have to find it, and once you find it, you just got to go for it, and that's the honest truth. I truly believe everyone was put on this planet and they have a special gift. You just have to find what your passion is, and you just have to be able to find it. And there's never too late of an age to find your passion. You could end up being over 40 and finally find your passion. The owner of KFC, got rejected over the Colonel, right? over and over and over and over and over. Didn't believe in him. Didn't believe in his recipe. Over and over and over. And then until he got to, over 50, 60 years old, 70 years old, and then finally got the deal. He never gave up. You know what I mean? You just have to be able to believe in yourself and find something that you are good at and then run with it. So, but again, I'm not in the business of talking shit. I'm in the business of calling facts, and this is what it is. If a player isn't doing well and it's one of your favorite players, it's not to be insulting. I'm just trying to say what it is. And the same thing that I would say about your favorite player, if he's doing bad, I would say the same thing about Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, or Baker Mayfield, or Tom Brady, or any of my players I've had in the past. I'm not going to give my teams and my players a free pass ever. And that's what you guys should realize when you're on this channel, that I'm not biased at all for not even my own team or my own players. I call it how I see it, as if every team and every player is mine. So once people start to realize that, then they can realize it's not talking shit or having a hot take. If you want to have people argue, there's plenty of places to go for that. If you want horrible takes like the Dallas Cowboys are winning the Super Bowl every year, there's plenty of places you can waste time. But if you want to get smarter in the NFL game, not only by me, but by the people in the room, this is the place to be. And again, it's just a matter of time where you get these people that like watching people argue start to realize, damn, I'm wasting my time. I'm not getting any smarter. These guys aren't teaching me anything new. So once people start realizing that these channels are garbage, right, that eventually the good ones that actually put in a lot of hard work, with film, that aren't biased, that read the articles, that watch a lot of games, that know what they're talking about, right, then those will end up growing and will end up peaking. But, everything takes time. I would rather have it take a long time for me and to have the right type of people than just to blow up overnight and then have it disappear, in like a year or two and just be like a fad, by screaming and yelling and being fake. Like when you see people doing like reaction videos, and then they like jump out of their chair, onto the ground or out the window. It's like too much. It's just so blatantly fake. But again, there's a lot of fake people that live in this world, and fake people like watching fake content. Facts. All right, let me see what we got here. I'll try to scoop in some Colts for you. Well, the media said it was going to be a sign and trade deal, but the Kansas City Chiefs and L'Jarius Sneed didn't say that. So again, that's just rumors. So sometimes you can only take rumors so far. Is it possible that Sneed ends up on the Colts or on another team? Yes, but it's also possible he plays the 1-year franchise tag, then gets a deal, or he plays the 1-year franchise tag and then the Chiefs decide that they want to pay him. I mean, it just depends. It's all about business. So, all right, let's take a quick look here. We'll start off with Michael Pittman. No worries. I just was scrolling through and I saw you got a nice little cute photo of you and him there. Nice that you get to spend some quality time. It's like with me and Paisley, the love of my life, and just every single second that I can spend with Paisley, I know that you're just the same way with Ollie. So, all right, one sec here. So let's start off with Michael Pittman, and then we'll go from there. And originally, I had him more of as like a wide receiver too, but based on the lack of talent at wide receiver besides Downs and tight end, he was forced to be the one. And then he played like a one this year, and he got paid like a one now. So now Downs is the 2, but now you got to be able to keep, building. And obviously, if Brock Bowers ends up being tight end, we might have something cooking in Indy. 3 years, $71.5 million. And again, just because you're labeled a 2 doesn't mean that you're like a bust. You know, no one thinks Chris Godwin and Devontae Smith from the Bucks and Eagles is a bust. They could be number ones on a few teams in the NFL, but maybe not every team in the NFL. Like, they have a skill set to be good. Pittman, Devontae Smith, Chris Godwin, but it all depends if you have someone that might be slightly better on the roster. But I like this move. And then let's keep going. You still got the Julian Blackmon. What's the safety situation with Blackmon? Blackmon is going to get signed by another team more than likely, correct? Because if they were going to re-sign him, the Colts, they would have already done it by now, more than likely. Unless it was like a money thing. But I feel that he'll sign with another team. And then if he gets no offers for other teams, then he might sign on the cheap back with the Colts if they want him. But that's a big if. Odell still available. Boyd available. Oh, and the Grover Stewart one, I like that. I like the Grover Stewart one. We did that a couple days ago, too. This was an underrated signing. Smash the like button, baby. Get those likes up. Hopefully we can get to 10, 15 to 20, somewhere in that range. Grover Stewart, D lineman, 3 years, $39 million. And obviously, anytime you end up getting a player that has any issues, either, a substance, and he gets caught or whatever the circumstance may be, you just want to make sure that that's behind him. For any of the performance enhancing drugs, make sure that you're working with the trainers and you're not putting anything in your body that's going to get you in trouble. And 3 years, $39 million, he's going to be one of those key pieces up front to help the Colts solidify up front on that D line. I like it. 6'4", 315, good size too. All right, let me see if there's anybody else. My list is long. I got over 100, 150 names. Oh, the Kenny Moore, 3 years, $30 million. I like that one too. So for you, it's like you did the same thing the Buccaneers did. You retained your pieces, right? So you might have not made a big splash for newbies, right? But you kept your pieces. So you're just like me. And that's winning free agency, baby. Keeping the pieces. Except maybe my pieces are a little bit bigger name than yours, but still it's a good thing because as Colts fans, even though Baker, Antoine Winfield Jr., and Mike Evans are bigger names, these are key contributors for the success for the Indianapolis Colts moving forward if they want to get in first place in the AFC South or a wild card. And it's either that by watching these guys play or you don't. And that's why I like being able to have relationships with a lot of you guys on the channel, because it forces me to be able to watch your guys' favorite players and teams and evaluate. And then I end up doing it pretty much for every team. That way I know what to do in fantasy. That way I know what to do for betting, to help people out to win money in fantasy and in just sports betting in general. And then also just, when we have matchups. So when we can come up with ESP and we can come up with really good predictions that stick, and again, history tends to repeat itself. And I've been watching sports and wrestling since '85. So you got to think by how many times I've seen that similar things repeat themselves. You just have to know what to look for. And I think that's what I'm the best at compared to a lot of other people out there. I recognize patterns and tendencies better than anybody on YouTube, and I think my results speak for themselves. He said all of them are ones. Well, Downs ain't a 1. Downs a 2. And Tank Dell is a 2. All right, we got a couple minutes left. Let me squeeze in a couple photos for Matt. One day Matt will donate. One day Matt will have a JOB. One day Matt will have a microphone. One day Matt might have a computer. And one day Matt might be with your boy on a Duck game. What you know about that? Eggshell, baby. Swag, 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 swag. The best logo. No other logo does that. Oregon Ducks, boom, right to the O. Beautiful. That's what, and as you know, me being a Duck fan, it makes it even cooler. But I mean, out of all the different graphics and spinning logos and all that, so cool. That one's definitely going to be used on the channel forever. Woo! NFL spinning logo, baby. What a fantastic season we had. Lots of good memories. Bo Nix and Troy Franklin. I'll never forget that duo. Ever, 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 ever. And Jackson Powers. Oh, baby. What you know about that? What you know about that, baby? And like I said, I think he's so talented. You know, like I said, best Oregon Duck center that we've ever had in existence. So, you know, if that's the case, you know, there's going to be guards and there's going to be tackles that are going to be available in the draft. But I can't wait to see where he lands. I'm going to be rooting for him just like I root for Penei Sewell every single game. Go Ducks. It's nice to see some of our guys actually panning out. Penei Sewell, Jackson Powers Johnson, Kayvon Thibodeau. Love, love, love. I'm not going to do a bunch. Okay. You get one. You get one. All right. So you're going to get one photo. You get one at the end. But it'll be a one that is an old school throwback. All right. Pick your tongue off the desk, buddy. There you go. Long hair, don't care. She's pretty with long hair. Pretty with natural lipstick. I think she looks a hell of a lot better. Natural look, longer hair. I know her signature look is red lipstick, short hair, but I think she looks cuter here. You're welcome. What a guy I am, huh? Even though I don't want to put that shit on the screen, but I do it for you. I got you, bro.
He did. All right, one more time. Soak it in, bro. 3-hour stream. You'll get probably a total of 30 seconds of photo time, but soak it in. And you got some ducks on here too. I've never shown this one either. So you got a little bit of that and a little bit of this. All of your favorites all mashed up at the end. Bo Nix, go Ducks. Troy Franklin, go Ducks. Jackson Powers Johnson, go Ducks. Taylor Swift, go Ducks. You're welcome, bro. All right, well, I got to go eat dinner, and I got to go take Paisley for another walk. I'll take a look at the schedule tomorrow to see what we got going on for the NHL, or we'll either do NFL or NHL. So let me take a quick look right now before I dip. Is there anything notable tomorrow? Damn, the NHL games were terrible today. Jets 6, Ducks 0, Kings 5, Blackhawks 0. Good thing we did NFL today. Oh, the Kraken play tomorrow against the Predators, so we'll probably do the Kraken. So Kraken tomorrow night, and then on Sunday, we'll probably do NFL on Sunday. I mean, I'm going to be watching NASCAR, or we'll take Sunday off, so. And then we got NCAA tourney. Yeah, baby. March Madness. Hell yeah. Well, shout out to Odin Sun, Aquila. Shout out to Cyberpunk, to make the stream successful. What did we end up getting to? Did we get to $330? That's gonna come out to really help out for me and Paisley. So shout out to all the people watching on Twitter/X, as well as the people watching on YouTube as well. Awesome. 330. What a great day. Paisley says woof woof de woof. And shout out to Aquila, Odin Sun, Cyberpunk, Sarah, Matt, Megan, Judah, all y'all that are in the room, and all the people watching on Twitter/X. I love you and I appreciate you. And I got one question for you. Who talk sports like us? Your boy Orion, Northwest Sports Fanatics, and I'm out. Okay.